Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto What If stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. Good morning Anko Nar and Ino said in unison, causing their friend S-sensei to stop mid-step. You both know it's freaky when you do that. Do what? They asked in unison. Both blondes sporting Cheshire cat grins. Stop it. Stop what? Came the double reply. Anko narrowed her eyes. So Anoichi castrate you yet? Anko asked her friend's student. Nar shuddered. Came damn close this morning. Thank Kami. Ami-ka-san has a built-in radar. Ino patted her husband's shoulder. I don't think daddy will work the garden for a while. She admitted with a shrug. At Anko's look, the blonde Kunoichi smiled. Let's just say Naruto was planting something and it wasn't in the soil. Anko bark of laughter had many people look at them as they continued to walk. Naruto sighed. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't burn the whole greenhouse down and rebuild it. Ino smiled. A couple days ago, her parents had gone out and Naruto was making her dinner after they'd come home from a mission. The young couple had foregone dinner as Ino had teased and flustered her husband until they had on the kitchen table. Ino's parents returned and Anoichi had gone berserker. The next morning, there was a brand new kitchen table. Eniki was bound and gagged in the living room with chains and Izumi was cooking breakfast as if there was nothing wrong. She had warned the pair about keeping it to their room, but that was it. Anko had laughed at that one as well. You two are insatiable, and when can I play? She said, never. I don't share. Ino said. You can flirt and insinuate, but no touchy. Damn, Anko said, licking her lips and looking Naruto up and down. Why are all the good ones taken or gay? Nar stepped back as his wife and Anko talked about Konohamaru's training. Naruto had to admit the Hogue's grandson was further along than he'd ever been under Ebisu, but his friend and brother had yet to make friends with Udon and Moi, and that worried Naruto a bit. He knew that there would be changes once he and Ino started messing around with things, but he thought of the three friends would be a constant. Hey, snap out of it, Gaki. We're here, Anko said. And Naruto realized they had arrived at the tower while he was thinking. Ino took his hand and they entered, ignoring the tables with secretaries. They went to the third floor where the Hokage was handing out missions. Nar smirked, seeing Iruka acting as the old man's assistant today. He noticed Team 7 there as well and the haughty expression on the Uchiha's face. It was then that Naruto remembered what today was and groaned. He listened as the Uchiha finally complained as the third listed off the D-rank missions and demanded something more challenging. Iruka's scolding. Nar slipped up next to Anko and whispered low in her ear. Tell the old man we'll take a joint mission with Team 7 to give them experience. Anko looked at the blonde who smirked. I promise it will be fun. And Anko-chan. That settled it. Anko knew that when her friend promised fun, there was usually someone to kill and for Anko that would be fine. My lord, Anko said, her voice cutting across Iruka's lecture to the last Uchiha gaining the attention of all in the room. Ah, Ango and Team 10. I will be just a moment. The third said, actually, I think I might have a solution that will benefit all here. She said. Kakashi looked up at this over the edge of his book. As you know, my squad has already performed well across the board, she said, ignoring the scowl on the Uchiha's face. We could do a joint C rank with Kakashi's team to help break them in. Saratobi stroked his chin in thought. He had to admit the C and B rank missions that Anko's team performed were impressive, and he did understand that Genin thought of D rank missions as nothing more than paid chores. What do you think, Nar? The old man asked, surprising everyone there save the Uzumaki family. Should be fine, Oji-san. The unspoken message and spoken between the pair, indicating that the Hokage remembered what the blondes had told him. He pulled out the scroll and flipped it to Anko. Very well. I was going to give your team a week off, but since you request it, it would be a good training exercise between teams. Anko looked at the information. An escort mission. Dulceville, she muttered, but saw the look Naruto gave her and sighed. The things I do for that brat, and I swear he's going to explain more later. The Hokage sent for the client. The door opened and a slightly punchy drunk entered. You've got to be kidding me. Team 7 and 10 will be your escorts for this mission. Anko, Kakashi, the client Izuna of Wave, the super bestest bridge builder around, the man said, taking a drink from a sake bottle. Nar watched the old man. You can't be serious. These BRZs, Suna said and belched. They are all talented and skilled. Team 10 are already on par with many Chunin, the Hokage said, and he gave the blondes a look, telling them to keep quiet and agree to his less than honest statement as they were performing at Jonin abilities. They all noticed Sasaki turn and scowl. And Anko and Kakashi are Jonin. The third said. Suna insulted Team 7 and looked at Nar. He wasn't small and scrawny like he was in his first life. The blondes look competent, the drunk said, and Naruto grinned as he felt Ino's grin. That duck boy I'm not so sure about. The blondes laughed as Kakashi grabbed Sasaki before he could attack the client. Well, meet you at the gate in an hour. Enko said. She looked at Kakashi. If you're late, you forfeit a quarter of your pay. She and her team left. Naruto winked at the Hokage, who winked back. Sakura watched them go before sighing. Shikamaru wandered away mumbling it was going to be troublesome getting gear. Sasaki looked bored, was being lectured by Kakashi about not attacking the client and what to pack. He doesn't tell us anything. Sakura aside, wishing in her mind for what felt like the millionth time since the teams were formed that she was with a pair of blondes. You two pack for a heavy mission. Something about the client doesn't smell right. And I'm not talking about him needing to take a bath. He smells worse than that brewery on the east side. Enko said. Naruto was glad his friend and sensei noticed soon as flinches. Kakashi never said anything to his team in his past life, and Naruto still thought the mission was up from the word go. We will, the pair said, and Enko shuddered and stopped that freaky double speak. They laughed and parted to get their supplies. After Enko was gone, Ino looked at her husband. Is this the mission you were talking about? Yeah, if we're lucky, we can make sure Sasaki doesn't get his Sharingan activated. I also want to save Haku, Naruto said, thinking of the ice user and how in the short time he impacted Naruto's life. Entering the Yamanaka flower shop, they headed through. You two are back early, Izumi said from behind the counter. We need to pack for a mission out of the village. Mom, Ino said as Naruto went upstairs to get their gear together. Ino looked at her mother. We've got a C rank escort mission with Team 7 we're going with because we've got experience outside the village. Eniki, who entered from the back, snorted more like to protect the Uchiha. Ino nodded. That too, from what we've seen. Team 7 isn't really well trained. It looks like their sensei spends his time with his nose in a certain orange book. Eniki sighed. Kakashi. He muttered. Isn't that the team Sakura is on, dear? Izumi asks. Yeah, Mom. Ino said. It shouldn't be too hard with 5 genin and 2 jonin for AC rank escort and protection. Eniki nodded. You be careful, princess. He said and kissed her forehead. He turned and looked at Nar, who came down with a slim pack that held the storage scrolls. You better bring her back in. Daddy, Eniki. Nar sighed as his father-in-law glared at him. Izumi kissed Ino's forehead and hugged her, then did the same to Nar. You both come back safe, she said. And watch out for one another. We will, Mom, Ino said. We will. Nar agreed with his wife. And well, make sure Enko-sensei stays out of trouble as well. The blonde said. Ino deciding to get a shot in it. Her father waited till she was at the door and Naruto was out before she said, good thing we've only got one tent. The pair of blondes could hear Eninochi trying to get out of the house, but a loud clank told them that Izumi had brained her husband with a frying pan and he would stew until they got back. They were the first ones at the bridge and took a seat. Ino snuggled against her husband's chest. Enko joined them and sat next to the pair. She was juggling her kunai, bored beyond belief, and quietly muttering. If he's late, castration. If he's late, castration. Sakura soon joined them, her green eyes locked on the blonde pair, and she waved. Hey guys, long time no see. Hey Sakura, the pair said in unison and got a shiver from Enko. Sorry about that, missions and all. Ino continued while Nar hugged her to him, his head resting on her shoulder. And when not doing missions, we've been working with Konohamaru. Who? Sakura asked. Oh, the Hogue's grandson. He started the academy. He's adopted Naruto as a big brother. Sakura's eyes went to the whisker-marked blonde who smiled. He just wanted to be acknowledged as himself. Ino looked at Enko. Did you leave a message for him that we won't be here for a while? Yeah. Stopped and left a note with his mother. She said he was already out doing his laps. The trio smirked. So, how have you been, Sakura? Ino asked, looking at the green-eyed, pink-haired girl. Not so good. We're doing about 1D rank mission a day. We do some team exercises, and that's it. Kakashi hasn't taught you any jutsu or chakra building or endurance building exercises. Enko asked, and Sakura shook her head. No, when we finish, he dismisses Shika and I, but keeps Sasaki behind. That bastard. Enko muttered and the blondes nod. You should have had several exercises. Sakura closed her eyes at this. Hearing movement, she opened her eyes to find the pair of blondes standing in front of her. What up? Ino said and reached down and pulled the pink-haired girl to her feet. What are you doing? Sakura asked. Naruto dear. Get me a couple of leaves and a stick the length of a kunai, please. Ino said and shed her husband off. Ino looked at Sakura. We're going to be walking, so we'll work on a chakra building exercise until we set up camp. Enko smiled as she watched the blonde start off with Sakura. But we did these in the academy, and you stopped doing them after the lecture. Ino asked, and Sakura nodded. That was a mistake. Well, also set up a training schedule for you, Sakura. Ino said, can't lose my friend because she's not prepared. Once we get to Wave, Naruto and I will teach you several other chakra exercises as well as physical training. Ino continued. Sakura smiled. She wanted to hug her friend. Shaw, you'd rather hug her husband. Her inner persona yapped at her, which Sakura ignored. Shikamaru arrived to find Sakura sitting with the blondes and performing the chakra exercise with a leaf in one hand and a stick in the other, hovering them over her hands with chakra. He slumped down and watched. 10 minutes later, Sasaki arrived with Kakashi and the client just on time. Enko was on her feet. Great, let's go. Naruto Ino prong point. The blondes moved ahead, not making a sound as they took to the trees. Kakashi put Sasaki behind the client. Sakura next to him and Shikamaru in front. Kakashi took up rear guard while Enko took up front. The Onai Jonin noticed Sakura performing a chakra exercise and shrugged. Whatever keeps her out of my hair. He thought they'd walked for hours, their pace slow as Suna was in no shape to move faster than the slowest pace. They weren't sure if it was due to his weight or his drinking. Sasaki tried several times to demand Naruto and Enko show him something and they ignored him. Ino walked with Sakura. After the first few miles, they had used Cage Bunchan to scout ahead. Sakura had talked with Suna about Wave and Kakashi added his words. Nar, his back to them rolled his eyes. Ino giggled at her husband's actions. It was then that the clones dispersed. Ino, he whispered. The puddle, she said. Yeah, how should we do this? He asked his wife. Ino motioned for Enko, who came up and put an arm around the pair as if they were playing around. What's up? She asked. A puddle ahead. It's a genjutsu. 2 chakra signatures. Nar said softly, his voice barely reaching them. Should we attack or should we go past it and let the trap be sprung? Ino asked. While they knew they could handle the pair, they didn't want to raise questions with Kakashi. Enko thought, leave a pair of clones here. Go and remove the threat. Let's not play around with the client. The pair nodded and Ino smiled as Naruto created a pair of clones and they shined away. Enko fell back with the others. Something wrong? Kakashi asked and Enko wanted to stab the man. No, she said, and this idiot was an Ambu captain. Who the hell did he suck off? The snake Jonin thought. The pair of blondes appeared in the tall grass and they looked down at the puddle in the middle of the road. How do you want to do this, love? Ino asked. Fast. The others aren't here, but the last thing I want is the temp to get any ideas. Ino nodded and they pulled out a pair of Ambu swords Enko had gotten them. The spine sheath made it impossible to see and the blondes left high. The demon brothers never knew what hit them as they both ended up with ambush-styled swords buried in their skulls. Cleaning the blades and stowing them, the blondes were just arranging the bodies when the group caught up to them. Once more, Kakashi asked in disbelief as he looked from the dead bodies of the demon brothers to the pair of blondes who gave him bored looks. Why? Ino asked. We've gone over it 4 times already. Enko told us to remove the thread and we did. Nar said, backing up his wife while leaning against the tree they were resting on. Tuna, seeing the dead bodies, had hurried to the side and emptied his stomach of everything he drunk that day. Kakashi's team, more to the point the Uchiha, had thrown a fit. Sakura had looked pale as she gazed from the dead nin to her friend and her husband. Back off, Hideki. They did the right thing and the demon brothers had this on them. Enko said, tossing a scroll. It's orders to kill the bridge builder from a man named Gato. Enko said before Hideki could open it. The blondes and the Jonin didn't miss Suna pale and wide-eyed look. Sakura was watching the blondes and Sasaki was sulking about not getting to fight. And Shikamaru was asleep under a nearby tree. Ino shook her head at her childhood friend as Naruto leaned in and whispered in her ear. Hey, love. Shika could probably fall asleep in the middle of battle on his feet if it was too troublesome. Ino giggled and both blondes turned hearing Kakashi's annoyed growl. Well, go over it again. What? The Cyclopean Jonin said, but Enko cut him off. My genin don't need to wait for permission. Hideki, they know how to do their jobs and while on missions, they may act like they are treating it like an outing, but be damn sure they are aware of their surroundings. Kakashi looked like he wanted to argue, but Enko pointed him towards the client. Now ask the old drunk what the hell is going on. She turned her back and winked at her team. Kakashi took Suna off to the side, and the blondes relaxed when the white-haired Jonin moved away. Bastard. Nar muttered. Ino agreed, demanding to know our jutsu and where we got the swords like he's our sensei or the Hokage and can have that information. Idiot, she said. Hey guys, Sakura said approaching. Hey forehead, Ino said with a grin. Pull up some dirt, Sakura. Nar said as he pulled his wife back against his chest and watched as Kakashi talked with the client, ignoring the scowling glare from the Uchiha. You guys have really annoyed Kakashi-sensei, she said. Ino and Naruto both shrugged. He's not our sensei. We don't answer to him or over there. Ino said with a tilt of her head to the brooding. You really don't like him. A new voice entered the conversation. All three turned to see that Shikamaru had sneaked up and joined them. He's an who thinks everything is his. If he was one of Inuzuka's dogs, he'd be pissing on everything. Nar said. Sakura scrunched her face at that image while Shikamaru gave a chuckle. You two have gotten even better, the Nar said as he folded his arms under his head and looked at the sky. Sakura and Ino talked about everyday things while Naruto kept an eye on the fuming Uchiha. Wait for it, he muttered and counted down from 100. He got to 49 before the Uchiha finally talked himself up to it and stomped over towards them. Tell me how you did it, he demanded. Good afternoon, Sasaki-chan. Naruto said with a grin. Enjoying your first C-rank mission. Tell me where you learned those skills. Was it that Kunoichi-sensei of yours? Sasaki continued ignoring the Chan insult Naruto gave him. Ino and I use C-rank missions for something to do. The real meat missions are the B in a ranks. I believe this one is going to be upgraded. Nar ignored Sasaki making a fist and glare. Looked at Ino. What do you think, love? B rank or a rank now? Ino leaned back and thought a moment. Well, Enko-sensei won't care either way, she said thoughtfully. She did tell us about the demon brothers. They aren't too tough, but they aren't known thinkers, so there is a higher ranked criminal behind them. Knowing this, it will most likely go from the C rank escort and protection to an A- rank. If that is the case, Hideki will pull his team and return to Konoha with the client. Sasaki was fuming at being ignored. The Nar dozed and Sakura looked at the blonde. Why would we abandon the mission? The client lied. Naro said he gestured to where Kakashi was speaking to Zuna who was sobbing and Enko who was leaning against a tree. A bored look on her face. That means we don't continue. Sasaki snorted and interrupted their conversation. I'm not weak like you. Hideki will not give up a mission if I tell him not to. You tell him, Naruto said with a snort. Arrogant much. He's your sensei. He tells you to flee, you turn and run, dumbass. Ino nodded. Konoha Article 194. Disobeying orders in the field from Onsen sensei or grounds from expulsion from Konoha Ninja Corps is laid down by. Since when have you memorized the rules, Ino? Sakura asked, surprised her friend was able to recite them. Ino couldn't tell her that she memorized them while she was pregnant in the future past. Shrugging, she said, well, I was behind you in bookwork forehead. I did study while watching the store for mom. She looked at Naruto and smiled. I thought if I ever retire from being a ninja, I could be an attorney or work in the Hogue's office. Naruto smiled as his wife just told him that she would be working in the office with him. But Anaheim, I thought your mother wanted you to perhaps be alive at home, mom. Ino elbowed him. Quiet you. Of course, if mom has her way, we'd be hip deep in babies and living with her and dad forever. Nar shuddered and muttered. And if your dad has his way, I'll be castrated and staked out in the woods for the giant tigers in the forest of death. Off to the side, Shikamaru snickered. Shut it, Naruto hissed at the Nar. What? Sakura asked, looking from the blondes, then at her lazy teammate. It was Shikamaru who spoke, his eyes still closed. I have to admit, the chases between you and your father-in-law are becoming quite entertaining. Dad and Chosu have even been betting at how long you can keep ahead on Anoichi. Nar scowled and Ino laughed. Daddy does try. Mom's got him under control and won't let him actually do anything to you, love. Nar grunted. He looked and saw that Sasaki was still standing there. You're still here, Sasuke growled, but was stopped from saying anything as the Jonin rejoined them with Suna trailing behind them, wringing his hands and looking like he was ready to pass out. Suna gave them the Soba story as Naruto remembered it from his memories. We're heading back, Kakashi said predictably. Shikamaru and Sakura didn't argue as they knew they weren't ready for this to begin with. Sasaki, however, threw a fit and was ranting about how he wasn't too weak or cowardly. Nar looked at Anko, ignoring the drama. While Team 7 is leaving, what are our orders, sensei? He asked, stressing the title and shooting the ranting Uchiha. A look. While Team 7 isn't trained or equipped for this kind of thing, we are. My team will continue then to back you up. Kakashi said breaking in. That would be inadvisable Hideki. Anko said your team isn't ready for this. They aren't really ready for the C-rank mission. This became much more deadly. And you think your team is? Kakashi asked. Kakashi, my team has been doing a rank missions for some time. Their teamwork is flawless and they know when to follow orders. She said the last while looking at the Uchiha who was fuming. It is my decision. Enko Kakashi said. The snake Jan shook her head. You trying to get your genin killed Hideki. You trying to kill yours. He fired back arrogant. Naruto muttered into his wife's ear. Sensei Ino said. Enko broke eye contact with Kakashi and looked at her team. As the mission has changed, we do need to contact the Hokage. We don't need to. Kakashi began, but Enko nodded. As we are close enough to Konoha, still a genin could make it there in 2 hours and file the report with the Hokage and ask for advice. Enko looked at the 5 genin pineapple head. Shikamaru's eyes opened and saw Enko pointing at him. You'll carry a message back to the Hokage. Well, wait here and that's not needed. Kakashi said, cutting her off. Enko shot him an annoyed look. As I was saying, well, wait here. If John and Hideki disagrees, he can explain to the Hokage why he thought it wise to endanger Gen on a mission they aren't ready for. Suna whimpered about the price of a higher mission. Enko ignored him. Her gaze was on Hideki. You know that we need the Hoga's approval for the mission change. Hideki, it would be different if it changed while we were there, but we are close to Konoha. Nar looked at Kakashi. That bastard. He knew this and he risked our lives. He let us work ourselves into it and made it sound like it was our idea. He felt Ino in his arms grip his arms that were around her and he relaxed inside a soft sari into her ear. Enko finished writing the scroll up and handed it in. Man, what a drag. The N-air muttered. Wouldn't Naruto or Sasaki be better? Enko smirked. Maybe, but you need the exercise, she said. And don't stop to Cloud Watch or I'll have you running laps with Konohamaru for a month with one of my snakes chasing you. She warned. Yeah, troublesome jonin and their psychotic tendencies. Shikamaru muttered and leapt to a tree and was off. Enko looked at her team. Make a fire. We might as well have lunch while we wait. Off to the side, Kakashi was talking with Sasaki. Both would shoot glances at Team 10. Sakura was left dealing with Suna, who kept whining about how much this was going to cost now, as he knew there would be a charge for lying added to the total. 4.5 hours later, aboard Ino and Naruto were working with Sakura on building her chakra reserves. They showed her tree climbing. Enko looked at Hideki in disbelief that he hadn't shown them that, but was taking them on a C-rank mission. Naruto caught Sakura several times when she fellow noticed the blush on her pink-haired friend's face at being held by Naruto. Sasaki had snorted and said it was a waste of time, but Kakashi ordered him to do it as well. Sasaki was frustrated as he couldn't get more than 6 feet off the ground before falling, and he growled as the useless girl had reached a treetop in less than an hour. Off to the side, Kakashi was trying to get answers from Enko. What have you done to them? He demanded. What do you mean? Enko asked with her back to him to hide the smirk. The boy was never that good. His grades were the worst as was everything else. Now he's taking on C-rank nuke nin. Enko went with the story the Hokage told her to use should any of the other jonin ask. I fixed the sabotage that the teachers and others did. Once he knew the right way Naruto is a sponge. She poked him in the chest with a finger. His grades were tampered with and he was ignored and mistreated. For someone that claims to look underneath the underneath, you suck at seeing what's right in front of your face, Kakashi. She watched as Ino was now sitting with Sakura, helping the rosette-haired girl with more chakra exercises. Nar was on a branch above them, more to the point, upside down, using chakra at the bottom of his feet. She saw that the Uchiha try and fail again. He then got to his feet and stormed over and snarled something at the girls only to be hit in the head by a pine cone. Enko smirked as Naruto said something and the Uchiha stormed away. Why don't they help him? Kakashi demanded of her. His attitude for one, Enko said. Kakashi shook his head and went to help the Uchiha. Enko growled. He doesn't do anything but fawn over the Uchiha. I better let the Hokage know that the other members of Team 7 are suffering under his pathetic training skills. She paused, sensing chakra approaching. She turned to see Shikamaru come up along with Inoichi Yamanaka and Shikaku Nara. Raising an eyebrow, she waited till the three landed. Gentlemen, Enko, both men said, were your reinforcements. Shikaku said in the same lazy tone his son used. Enko noticed that Inoichi's gaze was on Naruto who seemed frozen seeing his father-in-law. Aren't you retired as members of the council? Enko asked the elder Nar. It's too troublesome to explain. The elder said Shikamaru had no such compulsion, it seemed, and said, Mom's on the warpath, so he needed to be away for a few days. Shikaku shot his son a look. What? I'm not the one who told her it was too troublesome to say I love you. Enko snorted and looked at Inoichi and Yamanaka-san. He was quiet, his gaze on his daughter and her husband. I was in the Hoga's office when Shikamaru came in and explained the situation. He looked at her. I know you've dealt with these kind of missions before, but my gut is telling me that something is different. She nodded. No threatening my genin. Shiseido nodded. Izumi had given him specific orders when he went to get his gear after volunteering to go and support Team 10. Shikaku spoke up. The Hokage has granted the mission to continue and the client will be billed an amended mission rate later. Shikaku looked at Kakashi. Team 7 should return to Konoha now. Kakashi sighed. I would rather my team continue. This could be a valuable training exercise for them. The two elder ninja shared a look. Very well, but Anko is in overall command as she is senior field agent and her team has the experience. Kakashi looked like he was going to argue. You may have been an Anbu captain Kakashi, but she outranked you then, too, as she was second to Ibiki. Your arrogance at having an Uchiha on your team makes you think above your station. Shikaku spoke up, cutting him off. Well, rest here half an hour more than be on our way. Anko said. She looked at Shikamaru. Get a bite to eat and water. Shikamaru nodded. Anko filled the two elder ninja in about what the client told them. Gato, you say. Shikaku said, stroking his jaw. Intelligence has reports of him setting up cartels all over the elemental nations. Eniki said, we could use this as a chance to stop him. Anko thought for a moment. Well, scout it out and decide if we'll need Anbu. The journey to Wave has officially begun. Flashback. Moon. Ino jumped as she saw her son standing on the edge of the boat while his father rocked it. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, you stopped at this instant. Ino yelled as her heart filled her throat. Nar did so. Sadly, 6-year-old Saru Namikaze didn't, and the resounding splash had Ino rushing to the end of the pier, her husband diving in after their son. Ino stood there. Her breathing stopped as she waited. There were bubbles, but they soon stopped, and Ino thought her heart had as well. Suddenly, the lake exploded, and Ino fell backwards and looked up, seeing Gamabunta, her son and husband, on the old toad's head. Both grinning like loons. Her son's laughter easing her heart. Then came the anger. When you get down here, she growled. Bunta, go. Nar yelled, and the blonde on the ground could only watch as her husband and son fled atop the head of the old toad boss. Their laughter filling the air and Saru's higher, telling the world he loved the sensation on the back of the toad. End flashback. Ino snapped awake, feeling the boat shift under her, and she looked around to see the oarsman arguing with Kakashi. You okay? Naruto whispered, his eyes still closed, and she leaned back against him and nodded. Just remembering, she said. Her eyes found her father on the other side across from them, his head slumped, and every so often a groan could be heard. Daddy gets seasick, Ino said to her husband in a soft whisper. Nar chuckled. Bonus, he said. On what? She whispered. He leaned in and kissed her. Means he's too miserable to interrupt. Ino smiled into the kiss. I knew you were smarter than you looked. Sakura watched the pair. Her eyelided. I've got to stop crushing on my best friend's husband. It's wrong. And Ino would kill me. She however couldn't take her eyes from the blondes. They had caught a boat that would fit them all an hour before sunset. Suna whimpering about price. The Konohan ignoring him. Shikaku and Shikamaru were playing chess while Sasaki was busy sharpening his kunai. Anko was asleep, snoring rather loudly that it sounded like the outboard motor was actually running. Naruto planning on teasing his friend and sensei once they hit land. The Konohanan were quiet as they saw the huge outline of the bridge in the fog. Now that's a bridge, Ino said. Nar nodded as his past life flashed before his eyes quickly. The boatman pulled to shore miles away. This is as far as I go. The Konoha group nodded and hopped ashore. Shikaku and Kakashi grabbing Suna and leaping over, ignoring his protests. Enko looked around. Ino Naruto prong formation. Uchiha Pinky Pineapple Head Junior Arrowhead formation. Pineapple Head Senior Anoichian and Cyclops reverse arrow formation around the client. Nar and Ino were already on the move. The blonde switching to a private channel on their comm units. What's wrong, Narukun? Ino asked her husband. We meet Haku and Zabuza soon. I don't know what to do. The blonde confessed to his wife. I don't know if I should alter what happens or let it play out like it did. There are things I can't remember. You'll do what you feel is best. Love, Ino said softly. Nar sighed. I know, but with the bigger team and skilled ninja, I don't think it will matter what I think. 40 minutes later, the blondes had pulled back and were walking just ahead of the others when Naruto stopped. He sighed. This is it, he thought as he drew a kunai and seeing the bush move through the canny. Report. Enko called using a hand signal to stop the others. Ino slipped into the bush and moments later came out with a rabbit. Dabi Sasaki could be heard. Something's not right. The Naris muttered, it's the wrong climate for the white fur. Nar said, shit. Enko said, down. They all dropped. Enko pulling Suna, who landed with his face right in her chest. His only thought was, he'd died and gone to heaven. Nar looked up, hearing the huge sword impact with the tree and Zabuza's laugh. Well, now what genius. Nar thought to himself, let the senseis deal with him. He sent a chakra pulse out and it pinged. There's Haku. He was only a dozen trees away watching from a higher branch. Give me the old man. Walk away and I'll allow you to live. Zabuza said, I don't think so. Enko said, you're a bit outnumbered. I am not concerned with the BRZ. They wouldn't be worth my time to pick my teeth with. Sensei. He's not alone. Nar said. Enko looked at him out of the corner of her eye while still watching Zabuza. How many? Just one. 12 trees back. 3/4 of the way up. Enko nodded. Deal with the help. Kakashi, Shikaku, and I will deal with the eyebrowless freak and Enonoi and Team 7 will guard the drunk. Ino and Naruto nodded and leapt into the nearest tree. Double S formation. Eniki ordered the 3 genin. Sakura and Shikamaru moved to comply. Sasaki, however, was moving away. Get back in formation. Uchiha. Eniki called. Faye. I'll deal with the backup. If that blonde idiot can beat a pair of C-rank nins, I should be able to handle one on my own. He leapt away. Damn that, Anko. Uchiha's gone rogue. He yelled, so that's what happened to the demon brothers. Zabuza said, I would worry more about yourself and your helper nearby than a pair of dead ninja that used a puddle to hide. Zabuza shrugged. Never hired them for their brains, and my tool can deal with a couple of genin. Enko smirked. Not my team. Zabuza looked at the 3 jun he was facing. So 3 against 1. He formed a seal and several water clones formed. Time to even the odds. Haku was at a distance and using a mirror jutsu to watch Zabuza take on the 3 ninja. He's good but they are better. The masked nin thought watching as his master avoided a hail of kunai from the woman and went on the attack against the one-eyed man. He watched as Zabuza's water clones attacked the pineapple-haired man, who seemed to have little trouble dealing with them. The woman is dangerous. She needs to be neutrally. Haku's thoughts were broken off as he barely managed to dodge the kunai that would have gone in his ear and out the other. You're very skilled, he said, flipping to another branch. The pair of blondes seemed to melt out of the fog and land on the branch he'd just been on. Give up now and well spare your life, the male said. Or go with option B and well leave your corpse for the birds. The woman said, I'll take option C, Haku said in his hand blurred as he formed a one-hand seal. Ino, look out, the whisker-marked male said as they jumped away as an ice spike formed in the water-heavy air and slammed into the tree where they had been seconds before. How did he know? Haku thought. The blondes wasted no time as they leapt to attack. Damn. Zabuza watched as the pineapple hairstyle Junin destroyed his clones. The woman and the one-eyed man were keeping him off balance and making sure he couldn't bring his huge cleaver into play. Not bad for Kona Junin. He taunted kicking out at the woman who flipped over and mule kicked him in the back. Wish I could say the same about you. You're Zabuza, the demon of the mist, reportedly getting that name for killing the entire graduating class. Zabuza laughed as he spun, bringing the huge cleaver sword around and finding it blocked by the white-haired male with a kanai of all things. A kanai. Zabuza was not happy. These leaf nin are good and their descriptions match the bingo book. So nice to be known, isn't it? Enko Midarashi Kona has spale Junin an interrogator. Enko actually gave him a huge grin. But then you have sharing Kakashi Hatake and 2 of the 3 members of the famous Enino Shika Cho trio as well. He laughed dodging an attack from Kakashi. I didn't know Konoha thought that highly of an A- rank nuke nin. Enko snorted. We don't. The client lied and this was a C rank escort mission where the genin were getting a chance to learn. 5. Genin. 3. Enko said my students are used to be in a rank missions. This is Hideki's cherry as a sensei. Zabuza laughed and looked at the one-eyed nin. So the famed copycat is a teacher of BRZ. How the mighty have fallen. I'll show you mighty. He Sadeko Shikaku stand back. He's mine. Zabuza laughed knowing that he'd just gotten Kakashi to make a mistake. Haku was getting exhausted as the blondes kept him on the move. They haven't used any jutsu yet. He thought as he avoided a shuriken from the blonde female that sent him leaping towards the blonde male. Haku sent a hail of sunbon needles, but the blonde smacked them aside with his kunai and tried a spin kick at the nearing Haku. Fire-style Phoenix Grand Fireball Jutsuha. Ino and Nar thought as the huge fireball raced upwards towards Haku and Nar. The fireball came from the ground and Ino could only watch in horror as Haku and Nar were engulfed in the fireball that burned the trees, reducing much of the branches to ash and setting the rest nearby on fire. Nar. Ino screamed. Zabuza laughed as he kicked Kakashi into the water. Gotcha. Enko was about to go help when she heard Ino's scream of Naruto. Torn over what to do, she looked at Inoichi, who looked like he was ready to rush off at his daughter's pain-filled scream. Zabuza laughed as Enko saw that Kakashi was trapped in a water prison with Zabuza standing there maintaining it. Shikaku was dealing with the clones now, and Inoichi was with the remaining genin. It's times like these I hate being a responsible adult, she muttered and leapt to rescue Kakashi from his prison from the real Zabuza while offering up a silent please be okay. Ino and Naruto, you're two of my best friends outside of Kurana and Ibiki. Enonoi growled as Anko went to fight the Nuke Nin. Sir, Sakura said, we must stay and protect the client no matter the cost. Eniki said, not even turning to look at his daughter's friend. What about Ino and Nar? Sakura asked, her eyes going off towards where the sound of fighting could be heard, the direction Ino's scream had come from. They'll have to manage until Zabuza is neutralized. Eniki said, hating being professional when he didn't know what happened to his daughter or his son-in-law. Shikamaru was quiet, his dark gaze taking in everything his own father was doing, and he realized that it was okay to be lazy, but there were times and places for it. Man, I'm going to have to learn that one. He thought as he watched his father's shadow techniques literally crush the heads of the water clones. Sasaki landed on a branch that had been untouched by his fireball. He smirked. That will show the Dabi who was the greatest. He said he was so proud of himself, thinking he'd cook the strange nin along with Naruto that he never saw the roundhouse kick from Ino until it connected, sending him flying across several trees, then hitting a branch and falling, striking several more on the way down before he hit the ground hard. Ino looked around and sighed, seeing Nar 50 feet away and 15 feet up, locked in a taijutsu fight with the hunter nin. Oh, thank Kami, she muttered, feeling her heart unclenched from the thought she'd lost him again. Pissed off, she turned her cerulean eyes back to where the Uchiha lay. Don't think I'm done with you yet, dumb. She hissed before leaping towards the other battle to help her husband, leaving a very battered and unconscious Uchiha on the ground. Haku was surprised when the blonde nin had saved his life. He could have gotten out of the way, but he wasted time to get me out of there as well. Why? The ice user was confused as the blonde obviously wasn't going to let him go as evident as they reappeared away from the fireball. Close one. Hey Hunter-san. The blonde asked with a grin. But don't worry, Haku-san. I won't let you die. Haku staggered back avoiding a kick. He knows me. How the hell does he know me? We've never met before, have we? Haku thought while mentally off balance and barely able to avoid the kicks and strikes from the blonde who was grinning. Haku tried to go on the offensive, which the blonde seemed to know exactly what he was going to do and either countered, blocked, or avoided. He's keeping me in close. It's like he knows I'm not that skilled in taijutsu, and he's making sure I can't use any enjutsus or keikei genk. Haku's troubles doubled as the blonde female joined them. Hey, Enoheim, is the Uchiha alive still? He's still alive, Narukun. But he does it again. And Konoha won't be wondering if he's gay or not because I will kill him next time. The blondes double-teamed Haku. Naruto hitting high while Ino went low. Their attack backed him into the trunk of a tree and before he realized it, they had him on his knees. Ambu-style sword pressed to his neck courteous of Ino. Please Haku, I don't want to kill you. Nar said, take Zabuza and leave. There's no need for someone to die. Haku looked at him from behind the mask. I can't. Zabuza-sama is he's your precious person I know but if this continues one or both of you will die and it would make me sad to bury you. Haku looked into the blue eyes looking at him from the whisker-marked blonde. How? Why? Zabuza cursed as he released the water prison in order to avoid the snake hand attack. Damn, he thought as he back-flipped away and heard the splash as Kakashi hit the water. Damn. Two of Konoha's best, the copycat Kakashi and the snake hand Midarashi. He brought up his cleaver sword and blocked the kunis from the woman, his free hand forming a seal, but he missed Kakashi in the water doing the exact same thing. And when he sent the water dragon hurling at Anko, he was struck by Kakashi at the same time. Anko managed to shushin away, and Zabuza went flying into a tree on short, cracking the trunk from the impact. The only thing keeping him upright was the pressure of water from Kakashi, who refused to release the jutsu. Anko reappeared on the water behind her fellow Junin. Need a hand, Kakashi. You're looking like a drowned rat. He accepted the help up and felt the drain. So, he covered his eye and allowed Anko to help him to the shore. Zabuza slumped to the ground and lay there, finding it hard to breath, his ribs feeling pulverized at being hit by his own jutsu. Damn that Kakashi, he thought as he slumped into unconsciousness. Once he was knocked out, the water clones dissolved. Shikaku slumped into a relaxed pose and everyone watched as Enonoi shined away so quickly. The force of his leaf shushin knocked Sakura, Tuzuna, and Shikamaru off their feet. Eniki found them sitting on a branch just above the ground. Sasaki Uchiha unconscious beneath them. Ino Naruto, are you alright? He asked. Hi, Daddy. Ino said giving a wave as she snuggled deeper into her husband's arms. We're fine, both of you, he asked, looking at Naruto. And the blonde knew that for all the protesting that Inoichi did, he did care. I'm fine, sir. Ino kicked major butt. Inoichi breathed a sigh of relief. What happened to Sasaki? Anaheim put him in his place after he nearly fried me with a fire jutsu. Nar said. Ino elbowed him. He's lucky all I did was kick him once. Enanoi winced as he looked upwards and figured out from how high up the Uchiha fell and he hit every branch on the way down. Why does that make me happy? The elder blonde thought. What happened to Zabuza's backup? He asked. A strange Kiri hunter nin got away in the confusion. Nar reported. Eniki sighed. What about Zabuza? Nar asked. Enko and Kakashi put him down. He's unconscious for now. He stooped and picked up the Uchiha, throwing him over his shoulder after making sure that nothing was broken too badly. Come on, he started walking, then stopped. And good job. Nar smirked as he walked after his father-in-law with his wife snuggled against him, both sharing a knowing grin. Kakashi had not been happy to hear about the abuse his student had gotten, ignoring the fact that he'd nearly killed Nar. Enko told him to shut it and carry his damn student himself. Then Sakura had rushed over to the pair, concern in her eyes, surprising all that she didn't spare the Uchiha a single glance as she demanded of the blondes their condition. In less than 30 minutes after the battle with Zabuza, who was bound and gagged and being carried by Shikaku, they reached the house of Suna, the bridge builder. Super awesome, isn't it? He asked with a boastful grin. The others nodded or shrugged. Naruto smiled widely. You bet it is. Ino looked at her husband. He'd always been fond of the bridge builder and she remembered the time he introduced her to Tsunami. Flashback. Come on, Enoch-chan. Plea. Nar begged, giving her his puppy dog. I jutsu. Fine, but you're not taking me all over the elemental countries to meet everyone you met while traveling with Jera to tell them you're engaged. Nar nodded as they crossed the bridge. She watched as the blonde stopped and read the plaque on the side. Whoa. I never knew, he said in a voice that held shock and awe. Knew what? She asked and walked up to see what had the whisker-mark blonde attention. The Great Naro Bridge, the dream of a man, the inspiration of children, the birthplace of a hero. Nar Uzuzuki, who inspired us to freedom. She watched as he reached out and traced his name. Say told you people recognized you as great, she said after he backed away from it. You're my fiancé. You're supposed to tell me I'm great, he said, trying to joke, but Ino noticed he was flustered at seeing his name on a bridge. They walked for a bit. Nar looked around. It's changed since I'd been here last, he said. Ino took his hand. This is where Team 7 became a real team for the first time. Where TM activated his prized sharing. Ino recalled Sakura bragging about the mission going from C rank to A rank. Forehead always said Sasaki did all the work. Ino said. Nar laughed. Of course she did. The brooding bastard always got the glory. Ino nodded. She'd been pissed when she learned from Temari about Naruto being the one to stop Gar. Yet Kakashi and Sakura praised Sasaki for it. She had then cornered several other people and found out the blonde next to her had done a lot more and never got the credit. So you never came here with Jiraiya during your training trip? Ino asked. We didn't have time, or as Ero-sanin said, we couldn't go anywhere I'd already been. Akatsuki might have agents waiting for me to turn up. Ino squeezed his hand. Anyway, I've sent messages back every few months and got some in return. Tsunami and Inari are great. They reached the outskirts of town and Naruto paused, seeing the house with a couple of additions, but looking relatively the same. Knocking on the door, he smiled as it opened after a moment, and Tsunami paused, the smile before grabbing Naruto in a hug. Nar _ she hugged him for a minute before letting him go. Inari, Naruto's here. She yelled over her shoulder and the sound from the back of the house revealed a now 16-year-old Inari. Big bro, the young man hugged the blonde as well. Inari grinned as he stepped back. And who is this? Tsunami asked, noticing Ino for the first time. Naruto smirked as he took Ino's hand once again. Tsunami-chan, Inari, allow me to introduce to you my fiancé Ino Yamanaka. Nice to meet you both. Naruto-kun's told me all about you both. Ino said and was surprised when Tsunami pulled her into a hug. Finally, she said, releasing Ino, we always thought you were going to be hermit with you chasing that soccer girl. Naruto gaped and the mother and son laughed. Taking pity on the whisker-marked blonde, Tsunami ushered them in. Don't act that way, Naruto _ that girl was never right for you. Inari snickered at Naruto's sputtering. Now, Enoch-chan, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself and how you and him got together while I make lunch? Ino smiled and agreed. Inari led Nar to the back where there was a workshop. You a builder like the old drunk? Nar asked. Nah, carpenter. I make furniture and small mementos like jewelry boxes and other things. Inari said as they took seats. So where is the old drunk? Inari sighed. He passed this winter. Mom always said he drank too much and it caught up to him finally. I'm sorry, Nar said. Don't worry about it. He built his bridge and helped rebuild the village, and he was always thrilled at reading your letters. You know, he considered you family. The rest of your team never wrote, but you. Inari nodded at a picture on the wall. Naruto smiled. It was of the time he and his team had been there. Various shots of their time, even one of just before they left of Naruto and Inari with Suna. I'm sorry I haven't been back before now, Naruto said in the kitchen. They heard laughter and both boys winced. Mom's going to get all the info now, bro. I know. End flashback. Well, I can know them sooner. Shame I never met Tuna. Naruto's told me he's different later in the mission and after. Ino thought as the house of Suna the bridge builder came into view. In years to come it will be a bit bigger and filled with laughter. The old man opened the door and welcomed them into his home. Ino smiled at seeing a younger Tsunami. Nice to meet you. I'm Ino Uzuaki, my husband Nar. Ino said, shaking hands with Tsunami. Welcome to our home, Ino and Nar, and the rest of you as well. Tsunami said things are going to be different. Ino thought. So, Zabuza is tied up in the cellar and his partner is still on the loose. Shikamaru muttered as he looked at the shogi board. His father made an affirmative sound as he went to move a piece and stop. The loud yelling of 3 of their teammates stopped them playing. He sighed and then at the same time they muttered, "Trouble's loud blondes." Sasaki Uchiha was not happy. He was being told no and he was in trouble with the elder ninja on the team. That little bastard nearly killed a fellow leaf ninja Kakashi and you think that he was just overexcited. The Sova laughed about it. Your daughter was overreacting and probably heard wrong. Kakashi Sadie was usually a calm man, but Kakashi was getting on his last nerve with his inability to see that the Uchiha was a danger to the rest of them. Sasaki Kakashi called, and the dark-haired Avenger looked at him, his arms crossed in his brooding stance. Did you deliberately attack Naruto earlier? HN the last Uchiha huffed. Loser got in the way. Ino snarled. In the way. We'd already had the hunter engaged in combat and were looking to capture him. You came from underneath with that fireball. He's a loser and should learn to stay out of my U. Enko had him up against the wall by his neck. Listen to me, you little stain. You might think everyone in Konoha kisses you and tells you your doesn't stink. But here's a fact of life. You are nothing more than a genin, a soldier of Konoha. If you pull a stunt like that again, I will have you kicked out of the ninja corps faster than you can brood, you little bastard. Enko, let him go. Kakashi said on his feet, but he found Inanoichi in his way of saving his student. Sit down, Kakashi. Enko's in command and your soldier broke ranks when he was ordered to protect the client. He tried to kill a fellow ninja of the leaf and he's acting like he should be patted on the head and given a lollipop for it. Eniki said. Nar meanwhile was sitting to the side. Bastard protects Sasaki. I thought you might change Kakashi if I wasn't on your team, but you're even worse. Nar had checked on Zabuza's bonds himself, tying the nuke nin's fingers so he couldn't escape and making it so he couldn't move. He was sad to see that Hideki wanted to let Sasaki go with no reprimand for his actions. The 3 adults continued to argue. Ino came and sat next to her husband. Her hand sought his out and the fingers intertwined. Yeah, Kakashi's a but I have my Enoch-chan. Morning came and Team 7 got a rude awakening literally as Ino and Naruto under orders from Enko woke them up and dragged them out before the sun was up. Okay, BRZ, since Kakashi hasn't shown you it's up to me to get your collective into shape. She said, pacing before the 3 members of Team 7 while her own team was going with Inoichi to guard Tuna at the bridge. The old man left early to check on his crew and make sure they had supplies. Welcome to Anko's boot camp, she said with a sadistic grin. Now, why don't we start with a nice leisurely run around the village? She asked with a grin that froze all 3 gens' blood. Move out, maggots. They ran the bridge. So married are you? Suna asked as he checked over the blueprints and his work crew was arriving and getting their tools from the foreman. Nar smirked. Yes, sir. Best thing that ever happened to me. Suna chuckled as the blonde was using shadow clones to haul lumber for the workers. My wife, Tsunami's mother, was the greatest thing to ever happen to me, when she passed on 7 years ago. Rest her soul, I felt like I'd lost everything. Nar never knew this. We never learned about his wife last time. None of them ever talked about her. He thought he looked where Ino was distributing work gloves and smiled. I know, sir. If anything ever happened to Ino, I think I wouldn't want to live. Tuna really looked at the blonde. He knew that out of all the genin that came Konoha, he would trust this one and his wife the most. To Zuna's house. Why am I the one on roving patrol? Kakashi asked. Shikaku walked next to him. Because Anko is fixing the training of your team. Really, Kakashi taking them out of the village and you never taught them anything. Sasaki, you have a team of 3 hockey. You used to be better than this. Maybe you should be returned to Anbu. At least there you weren't up like you are now. Kakashi sighed. The council has ordered me to focus on Sasaki. I was told that your son was getting training at home and Sakura should be discouraged and dropped from the program, and you listened to the council of civilians that have no right making decisions on ninja matters whatsoever. Kakashi shrugged. They told me, you are not this dumb, Kakashi. Shikaku said again. The pair continued in silence. Every so often they would hear a scream and Shikaku would smirk. I must say Anko is something when she's focused. They could be learning something else. Kakashi said, not if they don't have the stamina or chakra capacity. Shikaku, my son needs this as much as the girl, and the Uchiha needs to learn what being on a team means. Me. Kakashi said. Eninoi's evaluation of his mental stability is going to be interesting once we get back to Konoha. He's not impartial, Kakashi said. He is when it comes to his work. If he wasn't, he would have run off the moment his daughter screamed. Instead, he held his ground to make sure the client was safe. Something your prized student failed to do. Must you keep harping on that? Kakashi asked. Well, keep mentioning it until you get it in that thick skull of yours that he's just another genin. Yeah, what about Naruto and Ino? What about them? Shikaku asked. They get special treatment, Kakashi said. From who? The head of the Nar clan asked. You're telling me 2 gen get to use the time chamber in the Hogue's office and aged 3 years, not special treatment? Kakashi asked. No, they weren't genin at that point, and both of them needed the time to get their chakra up to snuff. Shikaku said, and if you have a problem, talk to the Hokage. He's the one who offered it to them. And that's another thing, allowing them to get married and placed on the same team. I wanted Naruto on my team and I thought Ino would help your boy reform the famous Ino-Shika-Cho combination. Shikaku smirked. Michosa's son felt he didn't have what it took to be a ninja in the field and joined the militia. He likes the police work and he gets to work at his family's restaurant more. As for Naruto and Ino married, the two showed that they worked very well together. The Hokage oversaw their exam they took after they came out of the chamber and believed that their teamwork and skills were above the regular genin and it would be unfair. And as for Nar being on your team, why you ignore your other students already? You can't say you wouldn't ignore Nar now. Kakashi shrugged. Anko is making them into killers. They took out the demon brothers quickly. And that's bad. Why? They shouldn't be that skilled. Unless their name is Sasaki Uchiha under your command. Shikaku said, getting exasperated with Kakashi. Listen, Kakashi, I'm saying this as a favor. Let it go. Nar and Ino have flourished under Anko and she has changed in the short amount of time with them as well. Yes, they do a lot of CB and a couple of A-rank missions, but they have the teamwork and skills. If you have a viable complaint, then bring it up to the Hokage. But if this is just because you can't have Nar around to abuse and make the Uchiha look better, then forget it. Shikaku walked away, his pace taking him far ahead of the stubborn, boneheaded Junin. Haku sat in a tree looking at the house. Zabuya-sama, what should I do? Naruto Uzumaki has given me options. Options where I could take you away from the life of a nuke nin and we could join an actual village. The hand holding the hunter nin mask trembled as the dark-haired boy thought of what the blondes offered. Flashback. Come to Konoha. I'll put in a word with the Hokage. You'd be able to stop running. Naro offered. And you could learn to be a proper field medic. Ino said. Konoha needs skilled medics all the time. And all I have to do is abandon Zabuza-sama. Haku said. No. Nar said bring him with. Granted, you'd both be watched for a while as Zabuza's reputation precedes him. Haku was quiet. Go, Nar said, stepping back. Well, give you a week to think about it, Ino offered. She knew what her husband was thinking and had to agree. Well, make sure Zabuza is safe until then, Nar offered. They heard the battle ending and Haku slipped into an ice mirror and vanished. The blondes going to the forest floor to sit and wait until Inoichi found them. End flashback. What should I agree to? Perhaps I can rescue Zabuza-sama and ask him. Haku's hand traced the pattern on the mask. He had several days before he had to do anything either way. I hate you. Anko laughed as the 3 genin were nearly unconscious. You 3 are supposed to be trained. Genin, you suck. Naruto and Ino, who had switched places with Shikaku and Kakashi, were sitting on a branch and looking down. No kidding. Anko-sensei. Ino said. Konohamaru's got another 3 years in the academy and he's in better shape than them. Stow it, pig. Sakura gasped out. Come on, forehead. You can't quit now. Ino said. Naruto was taunting Sasaki and Shikamaru. Come on, TM. Lazy bones, they managed to run further than you. You do. Sasaki raged. Shikamaru had made it further, but they all knew the Nar had basically collapsed the last 3 feet and allowed his body to land further than Sasuke's. Man, they didn't even make it miles at top speed. Nar said, what do you think will happen once Anko adds the chakra weights? Die, Ino said with a simple shrug. Are you two finished? Enko asked. I think so, Enaheim. He asked, looking at his wife. He for now. Good. Now get back to your patrol. You can torment them after. Enko said. Nar nodded and led his wife away while she went about tormenting the stuck UPHA and her friends. Enko looked at the three genin. Get up. You haven't puked yet. If we do, are we done? Shikamaru asked. No, you get up and do it again. Just think. Eventually, you won't even feel the pain. Enko said with a sadistic grin. I can't feel my legs. Sakura moaned. Good. Now up laps around the village again. Come on, she yelled, pulling them up and shoving them. The three genin staggered and started to run. That's not running, Engo said. I've seen drunks stagger better than you. While the pair of blondes were away from the house, Enko was training Team 7 around the village. Haku, you can come out now. Nar called out. They waited. Ino looked at her husband and he nodded, tapping his nose. You might as well come out and talk while we can. Nar said. Ino turned and saw the ice mirror appear out of thin air and Haku stepped out. What is it you want to talk? Nar said I need to speak with Zabuza-sama. Haku said. Nar shook his head. Not right now. It's too hard with the amount of Jun we have and someone always being in the house. I can slip in unseen and undetected. Haku insisted. No. Nar said, give me a day or so. I think I can arrange something. It best be soon. God is getting impatient. I told him Zabuza-sama is biding his time testing your defenses and strength. Nar nodded. He said he must see Zabuza-sama by Friday at the latest. Nar winced. He recalled what happened. I'll see what I can do. Do you want me to tell Zabuza something? Haku paused. Can you give him this? Nar read the message and nodded. Your word that it's not a trap or code. Haku nodded. On my life, on Zaba's, Naruto asked and Haku smiled. You seem to know me so well, Naruto Uzumaki. Did we know one another in a past life that you know me so well? Ino smirked. Something like that, she muttered while her husband denied it. Have you eaten? She asked. Haku nodded. There are fruits and fish. Then stay safe, Haku. And we'll meet you here the day after next with word. Either myself or my wife. Haku bowed his head and slipped away in an ice mirror once more. To Zuna's house, Naruto slipped into the basement that night and looked at the man that was bound tightly. Good evening, Zabuza, he said, bringing a plate of food with him. I have dinner for you as well as a message. He held the fork up and the former 7 swordsmen looked at him. Oh, really, brat? The man said, not even looking at the smoked fish. And what would that be? Naruto sighed and put the plate and fork down before pulling the scroll out and opening it, holding it before the swordsman. Zabuza's eyes scanned it. You really are talking with Haku, he said in disbelief. Yes, I've offered him a deal to get you both out of this alive. You come with us to Konoha. I'll speak with the Hokage. I am like his unofficial grandson. Zabuza eyed him. What do you want from me? He asked, for you and Haku to come out of this alive. At the man's look explained. I knew a pair of ninja like you and Haku. You both are so much like them. It's scary. They died on a mission when their client sent them to kill someone under the protection of a group of ninja of another village that was allied with us. They fought despite being friendly. It's the way of the ninja kid. Zabuza said, I know. Nar said, but at the end, when my friend's client turned on them, the other team fought allied against the man who brought in mercenaries who he said are cheaper than ninja, and he wouldn't have to pay them. Zabuza listened and sighed. It happens all too often for ninja without a big village like Konoha backing. It happens. I know, and it happens to Konoha, too. Nar said he fed Zabuza, who ate everything on the plate. I told Haku I would try and get him in to see you. He wishes to discuss my proposal. But I can't let Kakashi or Team 7 know about it. If you take it, I'll send word to the Hokage and make it legal. And if your Hokage denies it, Zabuza asked a realist. Then I will let you and Haku go after this mission and hope we never cross paths again. You really looked up to your friends, didn't you? Yes. They taught me what it meant to be a ninja. My friend's partner spouted on about ninja being tools, but at the end he said we were more than that. I believe that we are more than tools and soldiers. Nar said, his eyes meeting those of Zabuza. Either way, Zabuza said and nodded. Well, leave you alone, kid. You're different. Something about you, Zabuza sighed. Regardless, I'll behave. Thank you. I promise your captivity won't last beyond Friday. My promise on my wife's life. Zabuza his head married. He snorted. Neither nin noticed the shadow atop the stairs as they talked a bit. Zabuza about why he left Kairi and how he met Haku. Nar not indicating that he knew most of it. In his mind, it was nice to talk to a man he knew briefly but had impacted his life greatly. 2 days passed and Naruto found his window of opportunity as Anko asked for Inoichi's help in motivating Team 7. Shikaku and Kakashi went to guard the bridge and Ino and Naruto were left to protect the house. Tsunami and Inari left for the village to get some supplies. Ino agreed to go with them. Naruto waited in Shushine to where he told Haku to meet and found the ice user there. Come with me. Our time is short. Haku looked at Zabuza tied up and moved to unbind him. No, the nuke nin said. It's our show of faith to Blondie there. Zabuza said, speak. He ordered. Zabuza-sama Naruto Uzumaki has offered us a chance of sanctuary. Haku began. I know he's spoken to me. Your thoughts on this? Haku was nervous. I speak freely. Zabuza ordered. I would like to accept his offer. Both of us have been on the run for years. Perhaps it's time to make a stand and join a village. You've said one is no different than another. Zabuza nodded at this. And it would be nice not to worry about Hunter Nin and have a hot meal more than once every 6 months. Zabuza smirked. Are you saying I can't cook? Haku remained quiet and that spoke loudly. Zabuza looked behind Haku. All right, send word to your leader. Nar nodded. Haku looked nervous. God wants to see you. I told him you were spying on the Konohan. He said that he'll wait until Friday. Zabuza looked at Nar. Will your Hokage respond before that? He will if I use a special messenger. Nar said, already planning on what to do. The message will have to wait till tonight. I need my wife to cover for me. He looked at Haku. I give my word that Zabuza will be fine. He handed the ice user a sack. Some smoked fish and fresh fruit. I wish I could do more right now, but the people of this village are pathetic. Zabuza said, they let God in and take control, and now they are hard-pressed to feed themselves. Nar nodded at this. Well, change that, he said. And the pair of nuke nin believed him from the look in his eyes. Later that night, after Haku had been snuck back out minutes before, Shikaku and Kakashi returned and Naruto left to patrol the area and to speak with Ino. I need you to cover for me. He told his wife, I'm going to leave a shadow clone. I'm going to use the Hiroshin and get to Konoha to speak with the old man. Ino nodded. I'll make sure you clone is left alone. She smiled. I guess that means no tonight. She pouted. Naruto laughed and kissed her. I promise when we get back to Konoha after this mission, I'll make it up to you my heart and soul. You better bust her. Ino said, poking him in the chest. Love, be reasonable. We share a room with 3 other people, one of which is your own father. Ino laughed. Yeah, you're right. And I suppose giving dad an aneurysm wouldn't be a good thing. She kissed him deeply and then reluctantly stepped back. Create your clone and go. I'll hold down the fort and make sure Zabuza and Haku are safe. Naruto smiled as he formed the cross seal and the cage Bunchon popped into existence. Good luck, lover, she said as Nar smiled and vanished in a yellow flash. She remembered him carving the seal into trees along the way. And now she knew why. Come back soon, she said softly before looking at the clone. Well, let's go. Sure thing, it said and groped her. Ino fought the urge to slap it. Stop that. But that's not what you said the other night. Ino stomped off. Forgot his shadow clones develop personalities. She thought giving it a dark look. Behave. We need to make sure you're not destroyed. Right. The clone said, calming down and acting like the original, but remembering that Ino was not above smacking it for getting out of line. The clone thought that would up the mission and we can't fail the boss. Konoha. The third Hokage sighed as he looked at the stack of paperwork on the edge of his desk. No matter what time of day I start, there is always more paperwork waiting. He thought, picking up the next one. You know, Cage Bunchon do have practical applications. A voice said, thanks, Nar, but I Nar. The third looked up to see the smirking blonde leaning against the window. What are you doing here? Isn't your team? Yes, they are. I need a special something from you. A scroll with temporary immunity for Zabuza Mamochi and his adopted son Haku. I looked at the blonde. Are these the 2 you told me about? Yeah, please allow me to bring them back here as ninja of Konoha or let them walk after the mission. The third looked at the blonde. They really mean a lot to you. They helped me before. They don't deserve the life they've had. The Hokage picked up a scroll and started writing. They can come. They will be under probation and I will have you and that wife of yours being responsible for them. Nar smiled. Thanks OG-san. Nar said with a large grin. It had been a worry of his since leaving Wave that the third might not agree to what he was thinking. While the third wrote, Naruto gave a verbal report of the mission since Enonoi and Shikaku had joined them. And you say Kakashi hasn't taught them anything. Enko's fixing it, but Kakashi's acting like an injured party. And the temp. Uaya thinks everything revolves around him and the sun shines out his chuckles as he applies his seal to the scroll and hands it to Nar. When you and Ino come back, I want to talk with the 2 of you. Nar nodded 1 foot out the window. Well, see you then, Oji-san. And remember the shadow clones, he said looking at the paperwork before leaping out the window. His waited to make sure he was gone before palming his forehead. Cage bunch. I forgot all about them, even with as often as Naruto uses them. The third muttered, creating 2 of them and set them to task. He sighed, I can't wait till that boy takes this job. He mutters, pulling out a little orange book. Now for some quality time. Wave. Ino was walking back from the stream near the house when she was roughly grabbed. Before she could shout, she found herself slammed into the tree trunk and held there by her throat by none other than Sasaki. Uchiha. You're dead, Uchi. She thought. Let me go. She gasped out as the hand around her neck tightened. I don't think so. Sasaki said. You're going to tell me where the Dobi got all the power he's gotten. He doesn't deserve it. I need it more than him. He then leaned in. And then we're going to Kakashi and telling him that the Dabi is a traitor. Fool, Ino said, finding it hard to breathe as the Uchiha's hand tightened around her throat and Ino cursed herself for relaxing her guard. After that, I might be merciful and allow you to please me. Sasaki said with a sneer as he looked up and down Ino's body. That did it. She lashed out with a punch, but the closeness made it ineffective, and Sasaki sneered as he pulled her away from the tree and banged her head against it hard. Ino saw stars as the back of her head exploded in pain. Now that's not nice, but considering your husband is a traitor and an idiot, I'm not surprised. Sasaki said as he repeated the action. Ino slumped and found it hard to focus. I saw him let the hunter nin into the house and speak with the one we have in the basement. I couldn't hear what was said, but then again, who cares? It's my word against the blonde losers. Ino tried to fight again, but her head was rammed into the tree trunk and she slumped down further. Sasaki sneered. Perhaps I should have a taste before I hand you over. He mused. His free hand was going to his belt when a roar sounded and he turned to see Naruto descending upon him from a higher branch. The blonde looked downright feral. Ino lay on the forest floor, her eyes glassy as she watched the shadow clone attack Sasaki, driving him back. See careful, she said, her voice slurred from the blows her head took against the tree. Naruto kicked and ducked an attack, his feral looks intimidating the Uchiha who avoided the claw swipes and saw the pure fury in the red eyes of the blonde he dubbed the Dabi in the academy. What is this power? Sasaki thought. How is he so fast? How is he so strong? I must have it. Naruto with a lunge struck his claws leaving jagged tears in Sasaki's shirt, a claw-shaped cuts on the pale flesh beneath. You bastard. Intoned. You will never touch her again. Sasaki was finding it hard to go on the offensive as Naruto's blows, even grazing or blocked hurt. The kick he blocked with his forearms felt like he broke his arm. The bolo punch from the blonde tagged his shoulder and sent him spinning away in pain. Sasaki tried for a fire jutsu, but the blonde seemed to shimmer and reappear closer. The uppercut punch sending him into the air. Before he could blink, the blonde seemed to teleport above him and drilled him back to the ground with an axe kick. Both the kick and the impact hurt as Sasaki felt some of his ribs give out. Naruto wasn't done as he landed right on Sasaki, his feet driving him in like a jackhammer. Sasaki was unconscious at this point, and Naruto pulled him up by his hair, his clawed hand raised to strike when a blow to his back did the one thing that they didn't want, and that was make the clone disappear. Kakashi looked at his student who looked like he'd been in a war. Then to the unconscious Ino. Eneki wasn't looking pleased as he scooped up his daughter. Worse Nar? He asked. I don't know. That was a shadow clone, Kakashi said. He looked at his student and picked him up, trying to avoid making his wounds worse. Let's get them back to the house and patch them up. Hopefully, one of them will wake up and tell us what the hell happened here. Eneki glowered. Forgive me if I don't trust whatever the Uchiha says. Kakashi. If Ino's in this shape, then whatever Naruto did to him, he had a damn good reason for the elder Yamanaka carried his daughter away. Kakashi looked at Sasaki. What did you do, Sasaki? He'd been worried when Inko told him that the Uchiha had skipped out on training and couldn't find him in the immediate area. When they had felt the chakra spike from Naruto, Inoichi had been ahead of Kakashi, who got ahead of him just in time to see Sasaki driven into the ground. When he struck, it had been to incapacitate. But he'd been surprised when Naruto went up in smoke, revealing it was a cage bunch. Shaking himself mentally, he rushed after Inoichi and prayed that the blonde would turn up soon as they needed answers. And at the same time, he hoped he didn't. He didn't think Sasuke's ninja career would survive. Naruto was close. He was in fact speeding over the water when the shadow clone's memories returned to him, nearly dumping him in the water when he got to the part where Sasaki had attacked Ino and from what it looked like was going to rape her. He's dead, Nar growled as he sped along. No more chances, Kit. Kaobi, Nar asked, hearing the voice in his head. No, Mother Christmas. Of course, it's the Kaobi. Who else do you have in here? Sorry, talk in your head, Kit. Sorry it's taken me so long, but I did warn you and your mate it would take me time to make adjustments. Okay, and you're right. The bastard dies, I thought. I know, but obviously he was damaged long before him trying to rape your mate alone as grounds for death. Nar said nothing as the Heron seal pulled him along to the next marker and he was back on dry land. He took a second to orient himself, his chakra already replaced and he rushed along tree to tree, his leaps bypassing more than normal as a cold rage filled him and what he was going to do to one Sashuchiya. The Jun and all felt the chakra coming their way. Enko was sitting relaxed, legs crossed and chewing on some dango she'd packed away. Her eye went from where Inanoichi was sitting next to his daughter to where Kakashi was kneeling next to the stain. Ah, daddy's home. Stain's in trouble. She said in a singing voice. Shikaku Kakashi tried but the Nar snorted. We've all warned you to keep Sasaki on a leash. From what we gathered, he attacked Ino, who is a fellow Leaf Nin, and evidence points to his attempt to rape her as his pants were unbuckled and his zipper was down. Shikamaru, who was glaring at the Uchiha while standing by the couch that held his childhood friend, knew that Nar wasn't going to talk. We should make room, he said. The Junin looked at him. What a drag, he muttered as he knew he had to explain. Nar is going to kill him. We can't allow that, Kakashi said. Sasaki attacked a fellow ninja while on a mission in dangerous territory, Shikaku said, backing his son up. We don't know what happened, and until Ino and Sasaki wake up, Kakashi's meager defense was halted as the front door was kicked in. Naruto looked around the room and went straight for Ino. Inoichi stepped back as the whisker-marked blonde went to his knees and took his wife's hands. Haim, I am so sorry, the blonde whispered. I wasn't here in the bastard. And where were you that required you leaving a shadow clone? Kakashi asked, thinking he'd found something to shift blame and or attention. Nar pulled the scroll from a pouch pocket and flipped it to Anko. She opened it and after reading it, whistled. What? Kakashi asked. Gaki here went back to Konoha and got a deal for Zabuza and Inko looked at her student and friend and his partner Haku. Nar gathered his chakra ignoring the others as they talked. He remembered the lessons gave him in his last life. And while he couldn't do much, the basic healing jutsu would help Ino's head wound. Kakashi saw this and unveiled his sharing copied it and started to work on Sasaki. To the silver-haired Junin, it was now a race. If Sasaki could get his story told first, come on, please be innocent. Kakashi thought desperately of his prized student. Please equal Obito's sacrifice. Naruto focused the whole time. The fox in his head, telling him what to do, and he swore that he would deal with the Uchiha. Once Ino's awake and can look me in the eye, then I'll kill the bastard. Nar thought the green chakra flowing freely. Naruto not even fazed about the amount of chakra he was burning through. Enanoi watched his son-in-law, his own gaze going to the Uchiha, and he made a vow. Whatever you do to him, I will back you up. The bridge. Haku sat atop one of the finished struts, his gaze drifting over the island. He'd felt the spike of chakra, but knew that it wasn't close enough to matter. Zabuza-sama tomorrow. Everything will be settled tomorrow. Nar hadn't moved in hours. Behind him, a very nervous Kakashi kept watch over his student, a sinking feeling forming that the last loyal Uchiha was facing extinction. Naruto stroked Ino's brow as he recalled the information from the cage Bunchon and its destruction of the Uchiha. Come on, Haim, open your eyes. You've taken worse blows than that during our training, he thought. But he also remembered long ago lessons with Sununade about head blows being tricky things. It didn't take much even or a ninja to fall prey to. Eniki came in and tapped him on the shoulder. Nar looked at his father-in-law who handed him a cup of tea. Drink. Nar did as told, his eyes never looking behind him. He knew if he did, the Uchiha would never waken. And Naruto wasn't sure he'd stop at the temp. Shikamaru and Sakura were outside with Anko training while Shikaku was with Suna as the bridge builder needed to talk to some of his workers. Shall be all right, Enanoi said. Naruto didn't respond. His sole focus was on his wife. A million things flashed through his head. 99.9% of them ended with the total destruction of the Uchiha. Nar noticed it first. Her eyes were moving behind the lids. Setting the teacup down, he knelt by the couch. Ino, come on him. Open your eyes. Nar said. Inoichi noticed it and set his own cup down, getting the medkit ready. Come on, baby. Show me those baby blues. Come on, Nar urged. And Ino let out a soft moan as she struggled for consciousness. Her eyes fluttered and she winced at the lights from the lamps around the room. Ino. Nar said, hovering more than mother hen. Ino's eyes blinked and she looked at him for a moment, blinked again. Who are you? Nar felt his heart stop. Ino let out a short laugh and winced. Oh, Narukun, your face. Nar sighed in relief. How do you feel? He asked his wife, relief in his voice that she had only picked on him. With my fingers, Nar gave her a look. Don't be a smart. Ino saw the concern in his eyes. My head hurts and I owe a certain bastard for surprising me. Nar traced his fingers over her hand as he held it. What happened? My clone arrived after he started going for his belt. Ino sighed. I was stupid and arrogant, and by the time I thought he was a threat, my head had been cracked on the tree. He surprised me, and I thought I had plenty of time to get away. He was mouthing off again and said he'd tell Kakashi and the others about. She paused and looked at her father. They know while you've been out, we talked. Zabuza is with Haku outside. He smiled. He's really good with herbs and healing bombs. Ino's hand went for the back of her head, but Naruto caught it. It's okay, Haim. No hair was removed. You'll probably want to wash it later to get the blood out. Ino closed her eyes. I was stupid and arrogant. Yes, you were. Her husband agreed. Kakashi sighed behind them, knowing his student was lost. You attacked a fellow Leaf Nin on a mission. I thought it was a mistake or an argument that went too far. The Jonin thought sadly. Instead, you aren't worth Obito's sacrifice. Kakashi closed his eyes in frustration. Such a waste and I am a fool. I thought I could pay back Oito. Make you the best. Help you. I've been a blind fool. Kakashi muttered. He looked to Naruto and Ino and watched as the whisker-marked blonde helped his wife sit up. He really does look like sensei. Eniki checked her wound. Well, princess, you'll have a nice bump for a couple of days. I am happy you have your mother's hard head. Ino looked at him. I'm telling her when we get back. Eniki winced. How about I let you two have the house for the night and I'll take your mother out as a price of silence. Ino looked at her father with an eyebrow. The whole night. Eniki winced but nodded. I'll take her to see a play in Edito. We have an accord, Daddy. Ino said with a grin and winced as her head throbbed. Damn, that tree was hard, she muttered. Naruto didn't care about that. His wife was awake and fine. It was now his gaze landed on the unconscious Uchiha. I have to admit, my clone beat the underscore out of him. The blonde thought. If Haki hadn't struck when he did, it would have killed the bastard. What do we do with him? Ino voiced for them both. Bind him, seal his chakra, and he goes before the court. Eniki said. Nar snorted. They'll let him off. Eniki shook his head as he watched Kakashi pulling out papers and preparing seals. The Jonin had a defeated look. Not with two clan heads and the team leader swearing in against his actions and ninja judge before the Hokage and a member of the ninja and civilian council each with one representative. Enoi sighed. I would walk his mind, but with the beating Naruto's clone gave him, it might do harm. He looked at Nar. But should he escape that, there is always another option. Nar, Ino, a voice said, interrupting Inoichi. They looked at Kakashi as he finished the tags and applied them to his student. I am sorry. I know it doesn't seem like much, but just do better with your other two students. Hideki-san, Ino said as she leaned against her husband, and with her current condition, Inoichi chose to ignore it. Take a break, Enko said. Sakura and Shikamaru dropped where they were with groans. Enko said the Hogue's grandson is 5 years younger than you and already in better shape. Go away, Sakura moaned. My legs are killing me. She thought as she saw Shikamaru was snoring where he had dropped. Enko sensei. She said, getting the John's attention. What will happen to Sasaki? She was curious. Enko sipped from a bottle of water. The underscore, stain, if he's lucky, will make it back to Konoha. That's if Nar doesn't skin him alive for attacking his wife. She took another sip. But standard procedure would be one of two things. We kill him in the field and destroy his body, or we bind him and take him back to stand trial. There he will be put before the tribunal and if found guilty, killed or given a prison sentence. Sakura pondered it. What do you think set him off? He's always been unbalanced by the slaughter of his clan, but the council has ignored every warning the Hokage and others have said, and they literally pushed him to be a ninja. Ino and Naruto being stronger than him when before graduation they were middle of the pack hasn't helped his issues any. So, he attacked Ino for power. Sakura asked. Enko shrugged. Not sure. I'd need a session with the little underscore, but if I interrogate him, I can bet you he isn't returning to Konoha. A side drew their attention to Shikamaru. It's troublesome. Sasaki has always had issues with someone being better than him. Ino being better than him has got to alter his worldview. And Nar, the troublesome blonde, has always hidden himself. And if he didn't, one of the teachers would cheat to make him fail. Baruko was the first sensei since we started the academy that treated Nar equally. But it was too late as it was our last year. You're not as dumb as you look. Enko said to Shikamaru. It's too troublesome to worry about what will be done with Sasaki. In the end, he attacked a fellow Leaf ninja outside of training while on a mission in hostile territory. Shikamaru sat up. The council will push for house arrest and insist that if he isn't married, then they will use medical means to collect sperm and implant several women that they have probably already chosen. Good thing is that they can't choose active kunoichi. So, it looks like the civilians will be happy, Anko said. But there is another option that should the council let the little turd off the hook. At their looks, she explained Naruto's Enino's husband has a right to demand a trial by combat. Sakura felt a flood of relief which confused her as before team assignments, she would want nothing more than to be with Sasaki. But since meeting the changed Ino and Naruto, she'd been thinking a lot more. She almost wanted to see what Naruto would do to Sasaki in the combat situation. Because if a clone did that much damage to the Rookie of the Year, then Sakura knew that the real Naruto wouldn't leave a blood stain behind and the last loyal Uchiha would be nothing but a fading memory and a footnote in the Uchiha clan's bloodies history. Since you both have energy to talk, we can continue with your workout. On your feet and spar, taijutsu only, Anko said as she smirked while the two genin groaned. Don't you have your own students to torture? Shikamaru mock wed. I do, but one is unconscious and the other won't leave her side. I'll let them know you're concerned about them. What a drag. Nar and Ino watched as the seals were activated. Sasake's chakra was sealed and a seal was placed on his chest to keep him immobile. Nar helped Ino upstairs to the bathroom where she was going to soak in the tub and wash her hair. Despite the pain in her head, Nar came back down and his eyes were on the Uchiha. He was in worse shape before I healed him up with the jutsu you used. Kakashi said from across the room. You didn't heal him fully. Nar asked, surprised. I wanted to, but I thought it best to leave him. Nar looked at the man who in his pastime around favored the Uchiha with everything. Nar, the scroll the Hokage signed. Why did you not tell us? Eninoy asked. It was an idea I had and I needed to speak with the old man and not be ignored by whomever received the messenger bird. The blonde said to his father-in-law, I thought it was safe with the shadow clone I left behind, and I had already spoken to both Zabuza and Haku, getting their word to hold off. You took a hell of a risk, Kakashi said from across the room. Not really, Naruto countered. I had the measure of both, and Haku had been good to his words since our fight after we got here. Eninochi wanted to ask more, but Ino's call from upstairs stopped them. Duty calls, Naruto said and went to grab her fresh clothes. I know how long it takes to get dressed. Eniki called, but a chuckle from his son-in-law told him that was likely to be ignored as he needed to be reassured his wife was okay. Zabuza and Haku patrolled around the house. Zabuza had left his sword inside as a show of faith. We need to meet with God tomorrow. Haku reminded him. Well, talk with the kid tonight. Zabuza said, his eyes on the horizon. So, we really are going through with this? Haku inquired. For now, we have the BRZ word and that of the Hokage in writing that we can leave if it's not what we want. As long as we cause no harm to any Konohan. Zabuza couldn't believe that the blonde had turned up with a scroll from the Hokage and he'd done it faster than he thought possible. You like him? Zabuza smirked at Haku. He reminds me of someone. The former swordsman of the mist said, you've got to admit. He held back when he fought you. Haku nodded. I have a good feeling about this. Me too, kid. Me too. Zabuza said, thinking that things might turn out right for him for the first time since the revolution. To Zuna's house, Sasaki opened his eyes. His whole body ACHD. He tried to move his hand to his face and couldn't. He looked around and saw that he was in the bridge builder's house and was starting to wonder. Did the Dabi paralyze me? Sasaki thought frantically as he couldn't move. A moment later, Kakashi stepped into view. You're awake, he said in an emotionless tone. As you by now have noticed, you can't move. Kakashi said in that same dead tone. I healed some of your injuries. After which, under orders, I placed restriction seals upon you. Take them off, Sasaki said through split lips from the beating Naruto's clone gave him. Kakashi's eye focused on him and hardened. You are in no position to give orders, Sasaki Uchiha. His voice was like nitrogen and Sasaki blinked at that. Since team assignments, Kakashi had been friendly with him, teaching him things after he'd sent the losers home. You are accused of attacking a fellow Leaf Nin during a mission. You are also accused of nearly trying to rape a fellow Nin. Sasake's reply. HN. He looked at his teacher. Her and that idiot are traitors working with the ninja in the basement. He said, I caught them planning an escape. What you spied upon and failed to mention to anyone was Nar negotiating with Zabuza to sever ties with God and come to Konoha. Kakashi said Naruto has a scroll from the Hokage himself offering Zabuza and his apprentice free passage to end from Konoha. Should they decide to not join the village, they are free to leave. Sasaki said with his sneer. Now I order you to let me go. Kakashi shook his head. Food will be brought in for you later. Your wounds have been for the most part healed. The rest have been bandaged. He turned to leave. So you believe the word of a stupid girl in Adobe over the word of Anuchia? Sasaki said as the man stopped. Ino allowed Anoichi to perform a mindwalk after she woke up and Naruto allowed the same. Sasaki sneered. And now that you're awake, Enonoi will perform one on you and place the memory in a memory jewel. He can't. I have rights. Sasaki said quickly. No, you don't. As of this moment, there are two options. 1. You are bound and held prisoner until we return to Konoha where you stand trial. Or the second one, which is right now the popular one, as you be executed on the spot and your body burned, Kakashi said over his shoulder. The only reason you are going back to Konoha is that the other John are doing it as a favor to me, and I'm finding it very hard to see why, Kakashi said, his voice going flat, and he left. Ino had all but insisted her father mind walk her after she had her bath and held in her husband's arms. Naruto after seeing it had done the same. Eniki was fighting very hard not to go to the room they stored Sasaki in and destroying the little bastard. When Kakashi had told him that the boy was awake, he had told him it would be a bit as he had to calm himself or as he said, I'll rip that little mind to shreds and leave him as a vegetable if I don't calm down. Nar and Ino told the others they would stay away. I'll kill him otherwise. Nar said. Ino had agreed and now the pair were behind the house in a little grotto with a pond. Ino was currently standing on the water meditating. Stop. She opened her eyes to see Naruto standing before her, the concern in his eyes shining bright. You said you were arrogant and thought you could handle him, but it was too late. Ino nodded. I let my guard down, and by the time I even thought of actually doing something, his grip around my neck was too tight, and he slammed my head into the tree. Ino looked at her husband. I know. I shouldn't have let him even get that close. But she sighed. I thought he's just a genin and I let myself believe I was superior just because we trained 3 years. I forgot the common rule is that anyone can get lucky. All it takes is once. Naruto laughed and took her hand, walked her to the boulder at the far end, and sat on it, pulling her to his lap. Story time, he said with a grin. Oh, goody. Ino said as she put an arm around him and leaned against him. As you know, I beat Mizuki. Ino nodded. And in the previous time, I did that as well. You know how Ino blushed. He thought you weren't a threat. She sighed. I get it. It won't happen again. Naruto's arms tightened around her. He don't think I could live if anything happened to you. When my clone's memories hit me after it was dispelled, I was so scared. I saw the bastard and he leaned his head into her shoulder while she sat on his lap. Ino had nothing to say. Her husband's past life made him as he was, and she was the most important thing in his world. Well, be fine, she said softly. I promise. I'll be careful and won't take anyone lightly again. Nar snorted. After coming back in time, 3 years training in the time chamber, you get taken out by Sasaki as a several-month-old genin. I don't look forward to the lecture from Enko. Ino said, what about the one from your dad? Nar asked. Ino shook her head. He still sees me as his little princess. His concern isn't that of a ninja, but as a father of a daughter. What about me? Nar asked. I fear your reaction the most. I don't ever want to hurt or disappoint you. Ino said, bringing his face up so she could look into his eyes. I made a mistake. It's one I will never make again. She vowed. They sat in silence, comfort in one another's arms. Do you think he'll be punished? Ino asked. No, Nar said. The village believes the sun rises and sets from the bastards. He could fart and they think it comes up roses. No, he'll get off with nothing but a verbal bad sashake. Don't do it again. Your dad, however, said I can then challenge him to combat. Ino smirked. In that case, I hope they do let him off. Naruto shook his head. You, my wife, have a very mean streak. Ino smiled at that. I get it from my mother. Back in Konoha, Izumi Yamanaka was working the shop when she sneezed. My husband or my daughter must be talking about me. She muttered as she continued to put plants in fresh soil. Back in Wave, Sakura came across the blondes and stopped. Ino from her comfortable spot looked across the pond. Hey forehead, she said and proceeded to walk across the water. She saw the pink-haired girl's eyes widen. What? You can walk on water. What? Can't you? Ino asked as she reached the shore. Sakura shook her head. Enko-sensei is building up our stamina right now, and I'm doing the chakra exercises you and Naruto showed me while we traveled. Sakura then lunged and hugged her friend. I'm so glad you're awake. When they carried you in, Ino hugged her back. I'm okay. A very tender bump on the back of my head. She said, your dad's finished his interrogation of Sasaki. Sakura said, I've never seen him that mad before. Ino shook her head. I have. Nar was skating atop the water in an exercise he and Ino loved. Yeah, I think it was that time he caught us on his poker table. Ino blushed. No, that wasn't anger, Naruto-kun. That was indignation and disgust. Ino looked at her friend and saw she was looking at her husband. It was a look she knew well. So how are you and Shikika getting along? She asked why. Sakura asked confused. Shikamaru, you know your teammate, the guy whose first word as a baby was troublesome. You know the boy with pineapple-style hair. Ring any bells? Ino said. Sakura shrugged. We talk a bit, still trying to get to know him. The only time he shows signs of life is when he's playing shogi or checkers. Ino blinked. You got him to play Chinese checkers? Yeah, it was the only game I know. Sakura said with a shrug. Nar skated past. He shows life when cloud watching too. Stay out of this. Ino warned her husband. So ask him out. Sakura looked at her friend like she was insane. Ino laughed. Don't mind me. I'm just meddling. Leave her alone, Enaheim. Nar called. Shall find someone without your meddling. Ino picked up a pebble and infused it with chakra and tossed it into the water where it exploded. Nar yelped as he was soaked, but he managed to keep his balance and not fall in. This is girl talk, she warned. Sakura could only watch as Nar skated up and grabbed Ino and dragged her onto the water. Let me go. I'm talking to Sakura. The pink-haired girl watched the pair as they skated on the water like it was winter, the chakra from their feet making them look graceful. Nighttime, how do you want to deal with God? Zabuza asked as they sat around the table that night. My meeting with him tomorrow would be the perfect time to strike. Naruto nodded and looked at Anko and Enonoi who was with them. Shikaku had turned in and Kakashi was outside patrolling with his nin dogs. Sakura and Ino were with Tsunami talking and laughing. Naruto fought the urge to win as some of the giggles had a certain perverseness to them. Shikamaru and Haku had gone into town with Suna and Inari to get some supplies. It would be, but are you certain he has no other ninja? Anko asked. Yes, he has a couple of academy dropouts, wandering samurai, and 2-bit thugs. In total, 80 troops. Fear is his best weapon. Nar said. When the others looked at him, he sighed. He killed the few who showed actual spines and the rest caved in and cower in fear. It's a well-used tactic. If the villagers would band together, then they would have been able to drive him out, but they are afraid of getting hurt. Zabuza nodded. It's used in Kiri often. The Mizukage lined up his political enemies and held public executions. It broke the people's will. Inoichi sighed. It's a tactic that's been used by tyrants often. The small villages like this one fall to bandits often. So we set a trap. Have him and his thugs lured into the open and deal with them. Enko said, but where? Enonoi asked. The bridge. Nar said what? He looked at his friend and sensei. Tomorrow we have Zabuza say that he's found our weakness and he's going to kill Suna tomorrow. We stage a mock battle and when the little bastard slips in to try and pick the bones, we unleash the trap and wipe him and his goons out. Zabuza stroked his chin. That might just work. Nar looked thoughtful. We need someone here just in case. He said, I wouldn't put it past Gad to kidnap or kill Inari and Tsunami while Zabuza deals with us. Enko nodded. Shikaku, Shikamaru, and Sakura will stay here to guard the house. She looked at Inoichi. Naruto and Ino will be the bait while Inoichi, Kakashi, and I are hidden. When God and his men show up, we'll have him surrounded, Nar said with a feral grin. I don't know if I like that look, Enonoi said. I have some frustrations to work out. Nar said to his father-in-law between not being able to sleep properly with my wife and not being able to kill a certain bastard. Naruto, your shadow clones, Enko said with a thought. What about them? Can you make them to where they are hanged into the rest of us and Zabuza kills them? The blonde nodded. Yeah, he smiled. I see where this is going. Zabuza and Enonoi shivered at the matching grins of Anko and Nar. On the other side of the island in his mansion, God shivered in his sleep, his silk sheets not able to keep the chill of dread away. Heavy mist blocked out the early morning sunlight and engulfed the bridge. Gado stood away with his mercenaries and listened to the sound of combat as Zabuza and his apprentice were battling the ninja that dared to protect the bridge builder from his wrath. Boss, well, wait and see if the ninja are worth their reputation. He said to the thug that had been a random bandit until he hired him. Did you send a couple of those samurai to deal with the bridge builder's family? Yeah, boss. That daughter of his looks like she'd make a profit. God shook his head. No, make sure she dies as well. But you can all have a taste. If God only knew that his day that he thought was going so well would crash down around his ears. To Zuna's house. Shikamaru and Sakura shook their heads. They're way too loud. Shikamaru said, well, God thinks we're all at the bridge, so they have no reason to be quiet as they think Tsunami and Inari are defenseless and they are big bad samurai. Sakura said in a mocking tone, quiet, both of you, Shikaku says, annoyed at being the one left with the two teens, not to mention the complaining Uchiha in the back room, which they all ignored. Well, mostly. Can we gag him or something? Sakura asked as they heard Sasake's near yell, release me this instant. Shikamaru sighed. Are they close enough now? He asked his father. Yes. Both Naras sped through their hand signs. Kage main jutsu. The two samurai were unprepared for the attack. Sakura watched as they were turned towards one another and ran each other through with their swords. It was weird watching the Naras. Shikaku barely needed to move while Shikamaru had to throw his body around to accomplish it. Once the samurai were dead, she looked at the pair. Don't worry, my son. You will get better with practice and Anko has volunteered to help you. What a drag, Shikamaru sighed. From the back of the house came the unwanted. Release me. Shut up. The three Konoha ninja yelled. From the top of the stairs, Inari and Tsunami exchanged looks. Ninja are weird, Inari said to his mother, who nodded her head in agreement, but she was thankful to the group for what they had done. The bridge. God sneered as Zabuza went down to the pair of blondes. The rest had been beaten down by the huge sword and a series of attacks by Zabuza's apprentice. Move in. The ninja has failed, but he's worn down the ninja, leaving only two. Gato ordered as he strode forward. The dwarf-like man sneered as he set foot on the bridge. Maybe I'll use this as an execution spot for all those who cause me trouble. The crime lord thought, he'll have to kill the villagers off soon. If they can hire ninja, it means they've served their purpose. Godto chuckled and clapped as the male blonde stood over the defeated Zabuza. The female, he had to admit, was very pleasing to the eye and thought of having her tamed. Maybe a few shackles and have her turned into a pleasure girl, he thought with a perverse giggle. Whatever you're thinking about my wife, I suggest you forget it, midget, Naruto said, taking his eyes off the kneeling Zabuza and stepping away. Ino stepped away from the unconscious body of Haku. That looks like the same look the old man gets when he thinks he's alone with his book. Ino said with a look of disgust. She looked at her husband. I feel violated. Nar sighed. Now you've done it, he said to God, ignoring the 100 and some mercenaries behind the short man. It appeared as if the count was off. Love, what will you want as compensation? Ino looked at God, his head on a platter. She then acted as if she noticed the mercs. And all of them dead. Nar smirked. As you wish. You're both outnumbered. Surrender now. God said mad that they were talking about him as if he wasn't a threat. Nar snapped his fingers and the bodies on the bridge went up in smoke as did the beaten Zabuza and Haku. What? God looked surprised and wondered what power the ninja had and if he would be bribed. Just dispelling my clones. Nar explained. Welcome to my lair, Naruto said. Said the spiders to the flies, Ino continued with a bored look. You're insane. And just as dead, God said, and snapped his own fingers. Sadly, his mercenaries were engulfed in mist. Familiar voice of Zabuza laughed outright. You thought to betray me. Zabuza's voice came from nowhere and everywhere. Heart, lungs, liver, brain, throat. Zabuza's voice drifted from the mist. These are just some of the ways to kill a person in one move. God swallowed as he looked back at the mist. What's he doing? Nar smirked. Zabuza is a master of the silent killing technique. He told God, seriously, add in our sense, Ino said with a grin as she came up next to Nar. A moment later, the mist cleared to reveal Zabuza, Haku, Kakashi, Anko, and Inoichi standing over the dead bodies of the mercenaries, and your pathetic thugs are nothing but worm food. Anko said twirling her knife in her hand. Kakashi looked bored as he flicked blood off his kunai. Eniki looked at Gato, anger evident in his eyes at the man who would threaten his daughter. God realizing he was alone and his mercenaries had died in under a minute made him afraid of what he was facing. You want him alive for trial? Nar asked. I leave his fate to you, Suna said from the side where he and his workers stepped out of the genjutsu. Well, bind him. He's wanted by the fire daimyo for several crimes where he had been involved. Eniki bound the dwarf tightly. Ino sighed. That's 2 prisoners. Nar smirked. You think we can drag him back to Konoha? He shot a side look at Ino and she knew what he was thinking and stood ramrod straight. Yosh. If I can't drag them back to Konoha, I will do 200 push-ups to rebuild my fires of youth. Enko made a snarking sound as she fought to keep her laughter under control while Kakashi, who had pulled his book out, dropped it in fear and shock. Yosh, Naruto said just as loud as his wife. And if I can't drag Sasaki back to Konoha, I will. Stop, Kakashi said. He looked at Anko, who was on her knees, holding her stomach and trying to stifle her laughs and was failing miserably. Zabuza shook his head. You people are insane. Ino smiled as she went on to explain about Guy and Lee from their looks to how they behaved. And we can't kill them? Zabuza asked. Nope. The Konohanan said. Naruto patted him on the back. Look at it as a form of mental training and there is also that they love to challenge you to physical challenges. Zabuza looked at Kakashi who was near tears. Naruto, we forgot something. Ino said. What? He looked at Kakashi, then snapped his fingers. Enaheim, Narutkin, Enaheim, Narun. The pair embraced while behind them a sunset and waves formed. Kakashi cried and dropped to his knees. Stop. I beg you. I'll do whatever you want. Just stop. Enko couldn't help it. She nearly pissed herself, laughing so hard as her team tormented Kakashi. Nar stood before the Onai Jonin. Fine, you can never be late again. And you must train Sakura and Shikamaru properly from now on. Not half-hearted measures, but real training. Kakashi nodded quickly. Just never do that again. Deal, Naruto said. But Enko saw his fingers crossed behind his back and laughed even harder. Gato was scared. Ninja. They're all insane, he said. Suna nodded with the tyrant and shuddered as he realized that he and the dwarf had actually agreed on something. Without fear of attacks, the bridge's construction sped along even faster. Nar and his shadow clones helping. Gato's mansion had been raided and the money minus the fee to Konoha had been distributed to the citizens of Wave. Gato and Sasaki shared the basement, both spewing hateful words at one another and sharing what had brought them down. Both cursed the day they came across a pair of blondes who ruined their lives. Well, patrol the island, Ino said, taking Naruto's hand in hers. Kakashi was training Shikamaru and Sakura along with Haku. The three made an impressive team, and they were more relaxed, and there was no tension in the team without Sasaki. Don't stay out too late. We're heading back tomorrow now that the bridge is done, Enko said. Both blondes grinned at her. We'll be back in a couple hours, Naruto said. Ino whispered something in his ear. Make that. We'll be back for dinner. Both leapt away and Enko watched them go with a very leerous grin. She turned and looked at Inoichi. You're not going to stop them, she asked. No, he said and went back to the card game he was playing with Zabuza and Shikaku and a couple of the villagers. Enko snorted and grabbed her own book and went to find a place to relax. Oh, wow, Ino said, looking around the grotto. There was a small pond with a waterfall, sunlight casting light and shadow all around. Ino saw a picnic basket and a large blanket laid out. You planned this, she said, looking at Naruto with a saucy grin. Damn right I did. I wanted alone time with my wife. The job's done, and I thought it would be nice to have a romantic lunch with you here. Ino leaned in and kissed him. Sharing a room sucks, she agreed. But I'm not hungry after that big breakfast Tsunami fed us. Perhaps we can do something to work up your appetite. Then Naruto said with a foxy grin and leaned in and kissed her. Slowly, their tongues wrestled. Their kisses became deeper and hands with practiced ease unbuckled belts and holsters. Ino smiled mentally as Naruto's hands slid under her tank top, along her ribs, and gently over her bra covered. Are you sure you're up for this kind of workout? She teased. Her own hands were under his shirt, that she'd untucked from his pants. Always ready to challenge my wife, he said, kissing her. Then, as his hands worked on unhooking her bra, he kissed and sucked the pulse point on her neck, getting her breath to hitch and her eyes to flutter. At this moment, there was no bridge, no Uchiha awaiting a beating. There was just a husband and wife intent on pleasing one another. Soon, the pair were, and the only sounds were moans and groans as they pleased one another over and over. Swimming in the pond, they had again. Then laying next to one another on the blanket, they fed one another leisurely and had even more. They took another leisurely dip and used the waterfall to wash one another. As the sun was setting, they dried and dressed. Ino smiled as they walked back towards Suna's house, cocooned in her husband's arm. Both sated until they got home. As they got closer, they saw Sakura waiting for them. Both grinned as the girl asked where they had been and what they'd been doing. I'll tell you when you're older, Ino said and went to give Tsunami the basket back. Sakura watched Ino enter the house before looking at Nar. He gave her a grin and she shook her head. I ain't saying nothing, Nar said to the pink-haired girl opened her mouth to say something. He leaned in. But if you noticed, Ino's walking with a slight limp. Naruto laughed as Sakura's eyes unfocused and she blew back with a nosebleed that would put Iruka and the Hokage to shame when faced with his sexy jutsu. Ino from the doorway shook her head. This time it was your fault. Nar nodded and picked up the pink-haired genin carrying her into the house, ignoring Inari's questions and the look his father-in-law gave him. Starting a haram gaki. Enko asked from the couch. I'm jealous I wasn't asked first. Naruto groaned while Ino laughed and reminded their sensei and friend that she didn't share. Phooey, look but touch. Touch but don't taste. Taste but don't screw. You are a mean lady, little Yamanaka. Enko mock pouted. Shikamaru asked, and when did you taste? The gate guards blinked at what they were seeing. Sasaki Uchi being carried over his sensei's shoulder, tied up like a Christmas goose sporting numerous seals. Along with the group was two unknowns and a dwarf slung over the shoulder of the big man with the sword. They were nearly in the gate when the guards remembered their duty. Halt. Nar chuckled and Shikamaru gave him a look before handing over 5 Ryo. Ino smirked at her husband and nudged Sakura. What do you want? Enko demanded, not looking pleased at being stopped. Identification. You know who we are. Stain. Enko said. She saw them eyeing the bound Chia. We're going to the Hokage now, she said and motioned everyone through. Shikaku paused. Report at the end of your shift to the Hoga's office. Don't think we didn't notice your stance against Naruto. He walked after the others. Haku and Zabuza were positioned in the center of the group. Haku was talking with Sakura about how his training had been set up by Zabuza after he found him on the streets of Kiri. God was unconscious as Anko had slipped him a sedative before they left Wave. Nar had an arm around Ino who was leaning her head against his shoulder. Has it been so long already? It has, Nar said. Eniki was with the pair. After our report, you better see your mother. We will, Daddy, Ino said. Her gaze fell on the Uchiha being carried by Kakashi. She noticed how villagers were forming, others running ahead to spread the news. Nar, she said low. I see it, he muttered. By the time they reached the tower, a lot of villagers were gathered and at the doors was 3 council members. What is the meaning of this? Kaharu demanded, seeing the last Uchiha bound and gagged. None of your business, Elder Kakashi said. Stand aside. We have a meeting with the Hokage. Release him at once, Homiera demanded. Don't think so, Enko said. The council demands, Kaharu began. But Inoichi stepped forward. Has no say in shinobi matters. This is for the Hokage to deal with. Inoichi Danzo said, speaking for the first time. What is the meaning of this? Eninoy Yamanaka never liked Danzo and he liked him even less now. A ninja matter for the Hokage to handle. Then why are you here? Kaharu asked. Shikaku and I were part of a recent mission. The head of the Yamanaka clan said, what mission would require? Again, elders, none of your concern. Eniki said. Enko, fed up, stepped forward. Stand aside or be arrested. We are members of the council. You can't do that. But I can. Everyone turned to see the Hokage at the top of the stairs. His gaze took it all in. Team 7 and Team 10. Report to my office along with your guests. Enko and Kakashi pushed their way to the stairs. Naruto went last, his eyes noticing the scowls on the faces of the 3 council members, and he knew that by the end of the day, he would be challenging Sasuke Uchiha to combat if they had their way. Gato was given to Anbu and taken to Ibiki right away. His fate at this point, nobody really cared. Hoga's office report said as he sat behind his desk, his eyes taking it all in once again. Enko gave the report from the time they left up until the end. And that is everything that happened. The Hokage sighed, his eyes landing, oh, the trust of Uchiha. You are a very stupid boy, he muttered. He's about to say more, but the door bangs open and the 3 busy bodies, aka Dasuno, Homura, and Kaharu barged their way in. Sir, Toby, why is the last Uchiha bound and gagged like a common criminal? Homura demanded. During the recent mission, he attacked fellow Konoha nin, not once, but twice. The Hokage said the combined decision of the high-ranking ninja was to bring him back, although it wasn't a unanimous decision. What was the other decision? Execution in the field, the Hokage said coldly. The 3 looked at him like he was insane. However, Sasaki Uchi will stand before the tribunal and be given an opportunity to defend his actions. He looked at the boy who was glaring at everyone. But know this, his ninja career is over. He attacked fellow ninja during a dangerous mission and disobeyed direct orders from superiors. The busy bodies ranted at this and the Hokage had enough, called Anbu to clear them out. He sighed and looked at the gathered ninja. Zabuza Mimochi, I take it you agree to the terms that Naruto has presented you. Yeah, I didn't believe it until the kid showed up again with that scroll. The former swordsman of the mist said he does have a unique flair for the dramatic moments. Serbi said, I will need to have you spend 3 months under watch. Zabuza nodded. Figured that out. Sarobi looked at Haku. And what do we do with you? Oh-san, Naruto said, breaking in. Haku was never a nin to begin with. So, he isn't a missing nin anywhere. Very good point, he said and looked at Haku, who stood straight, waiting for judgment. Since you've never officially been a ninja of another village, but show the skills needed to be, you will be added to Team 7 to fill the vacant slot left by Sasaki Uchiha. A thump and they all looked at Sasaki, who was ranting into his gag and trying to fight the seals that held him immobile. Come to the courtroom in 4 hours. Notices must be sent out. The Hokage said. He snapped his fingers and an Anbu agent arrived. Take Sasaki Uchiha to the holding cells until his trial. The Anbu grabbed Sasaki and shushined away. Dismissed, the Hokage said. Haku went with Kakashi and Sakura to find him a place to live. Shikamaru and his father were heading home to deal with the troublesome woman waiting for them. Zabuza went with Anko to find lodgings. I'll pick you up at the in-laws, she said, and wandered off. Ino, Naruto, and Inoichi walked. What are you going to tell mom? Ino asked. Not going to tell her that you were attacked by the Uchiha, that's for sure. Enoi said. Nar chuckled. He wouldn't make the trial. Ino laughed. Oh, mom would beat him up with her kung fu cooking skills. The three blondes shared a laugh as they walked the streets. They weren't sure how she did it, but Yamanaka had all three in a spine-cracking hug at the same time. Dear. Eniki squeaked. Mom. Ino yelled as her ribs were feeling the power of the hug. Nar was turning blue. I'm glad you're all okay. Sit. I'll make you something to eat and you can rest. I said, we won't be here long, dear. Eniki said. We have to present evidence at the trial of Sasaki Uchi. He said, and motioned for the Usuzumakis to flee. Trial. What for? Izumi asked. Nar and Ino made it out the door and up onto the roof when they heard. He did what? Go get him, mom. Naruto said with a grin as he held Ino to him as they took the time to use Shikamaru's favorite relaxation method and watched the clouds while cuddling. Hokage Tower. The courtroom was packed. Word spread quickly and those involved knew that it was the three council members who did it as the viewing sections was filled with villagers who all adored and kissed the Uchiha. The Hokage sat in the center seat. On his left was Hiyashi Hyuga representing the ninja clans. On his right was Danzo representing the villagers. Silence. The Hokage said, his voice carrying over the discussions and bringing order to the chaos. Naruto sat with Ino and Anko. Kakashi was with Sakura and Shikamaru. Behind them was Haku and Zabuza. Enoi and Shikaku were sitting with the other council members. What do you think? Anko asked. I think the bastard's going to get away with a slap on the wrist. Nar muttered seeing Danzo's grin. But it takes 2 votes. Ino said. Naruto nodded towards Hiyashi. The Hyuga did not look happy. Danzo's got something on him and he's going to use it to protect the bastard. Ino shook her head. I don't think so. The old man has that look in his eye. He's got them cornered. We'll see when they break off and discuss it. Nar nodded, trusting his wife more than anything. This trial will take place. The Hokage said. Uruka, if you would read the charges presented to this tribunal. Sasaki Uchiha, Janine of Konoha. Uruka began, you stand here before this tribunal to face the following charges. Uruka opened the scroll. You are charged with ignoring a superior in the field while faced with an enemy ninja. Attempted rape of a fellow Janine during an upgraded C-rank mission to an A-rank mission. Attacking a fellow Janine with intent to kill. At this, Sasaki snorted. Just the loser like anyone cares. Uruka scowled at the upstart and looked at the Hokage before continuing. How do you plead innocent? It's just the loser and his underscore, Sasaki replied, now let me go. I am the Uchiha and the village needs me. Killing intent flooded the room from several different locations. Uruka saw that both Chosu and Shikaku were having difficulty to restrain Inoichi. While in the civilian section, Izumi had a large gap around her. And it was Sakura's mother with an arm on her shoulder keeping her in her place. Ino and Naruto were pissed but keeping their place while Inko was being held by Kakashi, Sakura, and Zabuza. Kakashi with a hand over Anko's mouth, and many could guess what the snake mistress was saying, or at least guess the combination of words, if not the order. Silence, the Hokage ordered. Silence or this room will be cleared. He said again and looked at the rest of the tribunal. Hiyashi looked displeased with what the Uchiha was saying and Danzo the Hokage knew was schooling his features to remain impassive but he knew the former warrior and he was smiling inside. So you think because your name you have the right to disobey orders and attack fellow ninja? Hiyashi asked once the room had settled. I disobey orders from those beneath me. Sasaki said with a sneer. The street walker that is a Jonin Kakashi barely managed to tackle Anko around the waist while keeping her quiet. Sua genin believe you are above those ranked higher than yourself. Hiyashi asked, I'm an Uchiha. There is no one higher than me. Hai and Hiyashi shared a look. Danzo cleared his throat to speak. Hem, his lone hand resting on the table before him as he drew attention, clearing his throat. I believe this is just a case of a misunderstanding and doesn't warrant such a meeting as this. The other two looked at Danzo like he'd lost his mind. I suggest that Sasuke is temporarily reassigned and we are not here for your gains. He said in a low voice. Think very carefully, Danzo. Sasaki is already removed from being a ninja. This is to determine what his punishment is. The old warhawk looked at the room and once more at the Uchiha. He could sacrifice all, but there was no guarantee that the Uchiha would return the favor. The little underscore has become too arrogant. Danzo thought every angle he saw was either him losing his own position and power to save the Uchiha, which was a loose cannon. He needs discipline. That is certain. He finally said. Hai spoke up. If we don't, I've heard from Inoichi that Nar will take matters into his own hands. How? Danzo demanded, wondering what the demon container could do. Trial by combat, the Uchiha attempted to rape his wife, and it is the second time he's tried to harm his family. Danzo thought about it. We need to decide Sasuke's punishment. The Hokage said he'd raised a silencing barrier the moment Danzo was going to speak. Right now, the courtroom could see the three speaking. Even Iruka, who was only a few feet away, couldn't hear them. I say, let Uzumaki deal with him. Hai said. The Hokage chuckled and flipped open the file. This is the damage Naruto's clone did to Sasaki at the time. Danzo and Hiashi read the file, Danzo's eyes widening at it. How he was the dead last in the academy. Hiashi snorted. Real ninja hide their potential. My daughter is one who hides the best. Everyone sees her as a weak, stuttering girl. He smiled as he recalled her lesson to her younger sister who pushed her too far recently. Naruto's academy record was sabotaged by those who never wanted him to pass. The Hokage said as he looked at the arrogant teen who thought he could do no wrong. We cannot ignore the Uchihas ignoring orders and attacking fellow nin. As entertaining as it would be to watch Naruto put him in his place, we must deal with the situation that this village has created by catering to the spoiled boy before us now. Hai nodded. Enko by rights could have executed him in the field. Danzo looked like he was going to say something. But here nodded. She brought him back because she knew if they had killed him in the field, people like you, Danzo, would have made issues out of it. But as you can see, he shows no repentance for his actions and believes he will walk without issue. Danzo nodded at this. The more he looked at it, there was no way out of it for the Uchiha. I bow to the will of what you recommend. He said there was no way to fix this. The stupid child has made his bed. Now he needs to lay in it. Danzo thought of how many plans were being ruined by the arrogance of the Uchiha. He looked towards the blondes in the stand. And he's become a force. I can't touch him either. Damn them both. Nar held Ino's hand and they watched as the Uchiha smirked at the tribunal. Oji-san is not looking happy at Danzo. Nar muttered. I hope he puts the old war hawk in his place. Ino muttered. She looked at Nar. You think he's going to get off? Nar shook his head, nod with Oji-san and Hiashi on the tribunal. They Hyuga are sticklers for rules. And despite the fact that the temp tried to kill me and rape you, he disobeyed orders of a superior in the field. Troublesome. The pair turned to look at Shikamaru. Everything is troublesome for Yushika. Ino said to her longtime friend with a smile. Shikamaru looked at the blondes then at Nar. You should have killed him in the field. He gestured to the civilians and they saw many believed what the Uchiha had spouted. Sheep. Nar muttered in disgust. Ino Sakura pointed to the gap around Izumi and Ino. And Nar smirked. I'm surprised your mom is able to keep mine in her place. Ino said to her friend, Mom's strong and I think she's using a gravity seal tag to keep your mom in her place. Sakura admitted. I made some tags for mom to use around the house for things in the gravity seal. Nar asked, curious. Wait for the water well so mom doesn't have to keep hauling buckets up for the garden. She keeps meaning to get plumbing out there for a sprinkler system, but she says it's money wasted. Sakura said. Ino nodded. Dad prefers to do the work in the garden the old-fashioned way. He kicked Naruto and I out of there when we started using Naruto's shadow clones and other jutsu to cheat at planting. Shikamaru looked at the Uchiha who was sneering towards the blondes. Your friend is staring at you. Ino and Nar at the same time turned and gave Sasaki the finger. His scowl meant a lot to them. Looks like Oji-san is done. Nar said noticing the barrier going down. Hiashi handed a folded slip of paper to Ruka who read it and looked at the tribunal. Hiruzen Sarutobi nodded for him to read it. It has been decided by the tribunal who have read the reports from Jan and Ananko Midarashi Jan and Kakashi Haki clan leaders Inanoichi Yamanaka and Shikaku Nara that Sasaki Uchiha's actions are elsewhere. Kabuto Yakushi stepped over the body of the dead Anbu. He looked at the Odo Nin, put on his armor and mask. Place the tags at the location on the map. We have 4 weeks before the Chunin exams and we need to prepare for Lord Orochimaru's arrival. The Odo Nin nodded. What of the trial taking place? Kabuto waved it off. They won't do anything to the Uchiha. He's their precious darling. Kabuto pushed his glasses up and looked around. I need to get my team ready. Remember, keep out of sight and plant the explosives only on the locations marked. Kabuto incinerated the body with a Kaiden jutsu and swept the ashes away. He then moved towards his next stop. He had to gather information on this year's top genins from Konoha. Thankfully, Lord Orochimaru's spies already gathered the info from the other villages that will be coming this year. Kabuto thought of his info cards and how this would be the last time he had to hold himself back. He found the record room guarded, which surprised him. I'll have to come back at night. He thought as he wandered the village. He'd heard of the trial of Sasaki, but felt nothing would happen to the boy who his master was looking forward to possessing. Nothing will stand in Lord Orochimaru's way. Kabuto thought with a grin. Guilty, Ororuka read, and the civilians erupted at this. Ororuka waited for order to be restored. If they're going ape over the decision, wait until they hear his penalty. The Chunin thought with grim satisfaction. The civilians were going apeshit over the verdict by the tribunal. Naruto looked on waiting for the punishment. Sasaki had already been removed from his ninja career. The Hokage had taken that from him earlier. Sasaki was looking at Naruto and Ino with pure hatred. The blondes made kiss motions at him. Silence. Serbi roared. His big head jutsu puts to shame. Several civilians ignored the Hokage and he made a motion. Inu appeared and removed them. Naruto looked at Ino who whispered, Ibuki's going to have some new playmates. He nodded and his attention went back to the front of the room where Uruka waited to read the decision of the tribunal. Once order was restored, Uruka read the decision. You were found guilty on all charges. Your ninja career has been stripped from you and this council will be sending Anbu to remove all scrolls and weapons from your home. Your chakra and Kek Genk will be sealed and you will pay a restitution for assault and slander to Enoki and attempted murder of Naruto Uzumaki. Uruka was going to say more, but the arrogant child spoke up. The hell I will. Sasaki sneered and looked at the tribunal. This farce is over. My clan has been a part of this village since the beginning. I demand you release me and have someone train me personally. Either Hideki or whomever is stronger than him. I am an avenger and I must kill my brother. He/she spoke. One person does not make a clan. You are an orphan and while you might be talented, you aren't anything more than a genin. You stand before this tribunal making statements and demands. You speak as if you are special. And while the civilians and several shinobi believe you are the end-all be-all of what is best, you and your clan aren't that powerful. Thieves of other people's hard work. Hayashi shook his head. Many times Danzo has spoken in council about how strong the Sharingan is, how important. Hiyashi snorted. This village has been without it since that night 5 years ago when Itachi killed nearly the entire clan. Save you. Sasaki sneered at the Hyuga. There had always been bad blood between the clans and Sasaki knew the man voted against him. Continue, Uruka, Hiyashi said after a moment. Beside the loss of your ninja career and monetary charges, you will also spend no less than 6 months in jail. The civilians went nuts once more, and Sasaki glared at the man who taught at the academy, but he never respected. On the dais, Danzo shook his head as one of his root operatives used their hand signs. Should we extract the Uchiha? Danzo shook his head slightly and keeping his movements light. Negative. All operatives stand down. Danzo turned to see the Hokage eyeing him and his eyes widened when the Hokage signed good choice. Kakashi watched as the civilians protested the results of the trial. They don't realize the other option was death. The one-eyed Jonin thought sadly at how blind he'd been. He remembered his bow to Naruto and Ino. I will teach my team better. Sakura, Shikamaru, and Haku deserve better, and I will do what they deserve and give them my best from now on. Nar watched Sasaki. His eyes narrowed as the Uchiha smirked. Before the guards could collect him, he spoke. I demand trial by combat against my accuser. Nar smirked at this stupid bastard. My clone nearly killed him. What was that? Hayashi asked. Sasaki sneered. I demand to face my accuser. I demand to fight Ino Uzumaki. My accuser. Ino sitting next to her husband narrowed her eyes. Son of a _ you think I'm weak and you'll get out of this. You got me by surprise last time and I was arrogant till it was too late. Not this time, you pedophile playmate. They watched as the Hokage restored order once more. Sasaki turned and sneered at Ino. Would Inazumaki please rise and present herself to the tribunal? Hiyashi ordered. Ino stood as did Naruto who went with her. What are you doing here? Danzo demanded of the whisker-marked blonde. Doing something you probably never did. I'm supporting my wife. Naruto said, giving the man a flat look. Ino Uzuaki. The Hokage began. Sasaki Uchiha has used an old loophole in the law and is challenging you to combat to prove his innocence. Ino snorted and looked at the Hokage. And only the chicken _ would use it to save his. Fine, I'll fight him. Ino. She turned to see her father. I'm ready this time, Daddy. He won't be attacking me from behind. She looked at the Uchiha. Looks like you'll have your chakra unsealed again, boy. Sasaki sneered at Ino, who leaned against her husband. You know what Naruto's clone did to you. Well, I'll make that seem like a walk in the park. Sasaki snorted. Ino looked at her husband, who gave her a grin, telling her he had faith in her and she wouldn't be letting her guard down again. She looked at the tribunal. When shall we do this? Tomorrow. The seals need to be removed from Sasaki and he'd be given a chance to prepare. Danzo said. Naruto nodded and put an arm around Ino. The tomorrow morning, he looked at the Hokage. Let's set it up for 10 o'clock. The The Hokage said. The Uchiha just signed his death warrant. It wasn't the Uzumaki I was expecting, and Sasuke thinks he'll have an easier win. I nearly pity the boy, but I just can't care about one who would attack his own team. The aged Hokage thought as he lit his pipe. This tribunal is dismissed until tomorrow for trial by combat. Ururuka intoned. Naruto led Ino towards her father who had already gotten to his wife and was calming her down. Don't you tell me to be quiet, Inoichi. Ino winced at the tone of her mother's voice. As soon as she and Naruto were within range, she spun on them. And you, she said, fighting that heathen. He tried to rape you, my baby girl. Izumi was saying, Mom, and you letting her, she said, looking at Naruto, who took a step back. Inchi began. If Ino doesn't fight him, he would walk out of this courtroom untouched. Why did he chose Ino? Izumi asked. Because he knows Nar would kill him, Ino said. And he thinks that because he caught me unaware last time that I'm easy prey. Naruto looked at where Sasaki had been escorted out and his thoughts were along the lines of killing an Uchiha if he even bruised his wife. Kakashi stood with Anko and turned when he was tapped on the shoulder. Kakashi Hatake, your student, Sasaki Uchiha wants to speak with you. Anko looked at Kakashi who muttered, I'll be right back. He followed the Anbu to the waiting room where Sasaki was seated and the seals were being removed from his body. Teach me, Sasaki demanded. No, Kakashi said, you are no longer my student, and you are worse than your brother. He never betrayed a teammate, nor disobeyed orders of a superior. Kakashi turned, ignoring the very weak killing intent coming from his former student. Remember what I said about those who betray or abandon their teammates. You are worse than trash, Kakashi said and walked out. The Anbu smirked behind his mask at the look on the Uchiha's face. You scared. You challenged her. Shut up, fool. Respect me. The Anbu snorted. Respect is earned. And that is something you've never done is earn respect. You prance before the villagers and they kiss your but this is a ninja village. The Anbu left the medic and the Tunin to remove the seals. Sasaki scowled. I'll kill that blonde tomorrow and then I'll get even with everyone who has slighted me. He muttered as he left, ignoring the looks on the faces of the medic and Chunin. He's insane. The Tunin muttered. He's never passed his psych evaluation. The council pushed it aside. Now it's coming back to bite everyone in the Yamanaka residence. Ino snuggled against her husband, his slight snores more soothing than any sleep for her could be. In a couple of hours, she would be in combat against Sasaki Uchiha. She wasn't worried. Nar had told her to go all out and not even spare the feelings of Uchiha's fan club. Flashback. Kiss me, Ino said as she ripped his shirt off. Love, listen, Naruto said, putting his hands on his wife's shoulders and stopped her from ripping his clothes off. What? I want to play, Ino pouted. We can play, but we need to discuss what's going to happen with the bastard tomorrow. Nar said with the patience of a man who'd been married for many years, not the 16-year-old that his future self now possessed, thanks to his wife and Kaobi. Ino crossed her arms and knew it was time to be serious for now at least. I don't want you to hold back tomorrow. Things are changing and we can't keep it as we were going to. He has to be stopped and it looks like you'll be the one doing it. Ino smirked. Good. I still owe him for what he did to you and our little Sue. She said and Nar noticed her expression. If he didn't know Sasaki, he would almost pity and that was a large almost. So, are you going to hold back? He asked. Hell no. You going to make love to me? Ino countered. Hell yeah, he said with that fox-like grin. Ino's shriek as he picked her up and kissed her, soothing all concerns. End flashback. She snuggled into Naruto, whose arm held her, and she smiled as he kissed her forehead, and she smiled. Even when he's asleep, he shows his love and concern for me. She ran a hand over his whisker-marked cheek and reveled in the fact he would nearly purr at her light touch. She could hear her parents moving about downstairs. Last night, her father had gone above and beyond in calming her mother down. I know there's going to be a breakfast that will put Choji's family dinners to shame. Ino thought, I need to see how he's doing. We haven't had a chance to check on him since we've been back from Wave. She kissed Naruto's bare shoulder and slipped from the bed, remembering to pull on her pajama bottoms and her baby tee tank top. She grabbed a robe and slipped her slippers on before slipping from the room. Padding downstairs after a trip to the bathroom, she entered the kitchen and saw her thoughts were dead on as there was a monstrous breakfast that had the table and groaning under the weight. Is that steak, eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns, sliced fruit, waffles, pancakes, hot and cold cereal, breakfast sausages, 3 kinds of ramen. Gee's mom. We invite Choji and his family over. Ino asked aloud. Izumi turned to look and Ino saw her mother's eyes. She walked over and hugged her. It will be fine, Mom. But dear, he's an arrogant little boy and he won't be attacking me from behind. This time he has to fight me face to face and I can take him. Ino knew her mom was concerned. Sasaki was the rookie of the year. Unstable inbred, son of a underscore, she thought. But I had years of training. Remember, Mom, Ino said holding her mother. She saw her father in the doorway. Naruto sat on the stairs in a pair of shorts and an open Hawaiian print shirt. He'd found it in one of the little shops that carried foreign clothes and the shirt he'd gotten mostly Koino had trashed his orange jackets. Get in here, Nar. Izumi called and Inoichi smirked as the boy rose and headed in and was pulled into a hug by his mother-in-law with his wife. He looked over at her and she smiled. Nar got the hint and allowed the hug to continue. Inoichi knew that no matter what happened today, the Uchiha wasn't leaving the arena in one piece. I truly believe that should the Uchiha harm Ino, there won't be enough to compare even dental records. Haruno residence. Sakura sat watching the sunrise. Her thoughts were on what was going to be happening in a few short hours between her friend and her former crush. Kami, I am such shallow underscore. Sakura thought it had taken seeing a slightly older Naruto for her crush on Sasuke to vanish totally. And in a way, he was hoping the stuck-up last of the Uchiha won so she could console Nar. But at the same time, she was rooting for her best and truthfully only friend to win because she didn't want her hurt despite her inner self wanting Ino crushed so she could move in and comfort the blonde Adonis. Stop it. Ino's my one and only friend and Naruto is her husband. I really need to learn that I can't have what's not mine. I destroyed my friendship with Ino for years because I thought she wanted Sasuke. Now I look at him and I am disgusted with him. Sasuke's actions during the wave mission solidified what she'd been thinking since that day she thought Ino was being blackmailed by Naruto. Sakura addressed and today was the day she would lose her best friend because of what she thought that no matter how old Ino was now, Sasaki was an Uchiha and the most gifted genin out of their class. Shame Sakura never saw Ino's training she would think otherwise. Training Ground 7. Shikamaru Naru was stretched out in the shade looking up at the sky as it lightened. And he knew today was going to be troublesome all around. His teammate, exam mate, is going to get his kicked by his childhood friend and he knew he had to be there to watch. Man, I know Ino's going to kick his, but why do we have to be there to watch it? Shikamaru sighed as he tried to watch the clouds as the early morning sun gave them a color of orange and gold mixed with the sky blue. He sighed again and knew that in a couple hours Konoha would be missing a clan heir memorial stone. Kakashi looked at the names on the stone since wave he had been without his favorite book. He'd been working with Sakura and Shikamaru as for the agreement he made with Naruto and Ino after their mimicking of Guy and Lee. A shudder ran down his spine at the antics of the Uzumakis, and he wondered what his team would be like with Naruto. Now I have Haku replacing Sasaki, and already this team is better without the Uchiha. Kakashi's lone eye looked at a name on the stone. Obito, what is wrong with your family? Kakashi looked at another name and winced at how Naruto looked like former sensei now that he had aged and lost the baby fat. I used to think that he was the Kobe, but now I think I didn't look underneath and I up big time sensei. Kakashi touched the name of his sensei. If he is your son, like I think you would be proud of him. He's married and she's a looker. Eniki's daughter. Kakashi spent an hour just talking to lost comrades when he looked at his watch and saw that it was time. Stadium Nar, where the hell is Ino? Sakura asked. The blonde turned from talking with Inoichi while Izumi made sure they behaved. Oh, hey, Sakura. Enko came by and grabbed Ino after breakfast. Said she'd get her here in time. And you're not worried about your wife? Sakura asked. Naruto laughed. Not with Enko. She's not only our sensei, she's our friend. That statement sounded alien to Sakura. She could never picture hanging around with Kakashi outside of team-related stuff and missions. She looked around the stadium and was actually shocked at how many people were there. Nar must have seen the look on her face because he snorted. The villagers came to worship their precious Uchiha. Nar and Inoi warned and they both saw the council entering followed by the Hokage. Nar noticed the Uchiha come in with several of the village council and he had an itch. He tapped Inoichi and nodded at the people around the Uchiha. Inoi nodded and he would keep an eye on them. Hey loser, Sasaki called. I guess your underscore is too scared to fight me, so she hasn't shown up. The council members around Sasaki sneered and laughed. Naruto looked at him and clenched his fist. Come on, Ino, don't be late, sir. And Anbu asked, they still have 5 minutes. The Hokage said, lighting his pipe. He listened as the members of the civilian council pumped up the Uchiha and sent various taunts towards Naruto and the Yamanakas. They are just making things worse. The Hokage muttered as he looked on. What do you mean, sir? The Anbu asked. Naruto will not forget this. And you remember last time what happened to a person who wronged him. The Anbu shuddered. We found the captain with what has been dubbed the Alaska 47 Ultimate Wedgie secret taijutsu move. The Hokage snorted. That was Naruto's doing. If you never thought underwear could stretch like that, remember that. The ambush shuddered as he recalled the squad captain found hanging from the massive gate doors by his underwear over his head, and the only thing holding him in place was the kunai stuck through the band and into the door. No one could figure out how he got up there without the gate guards knowing. The Hokage felt it and smiled as Ino and Enko appeared. Every male nod related to Ino had their jaws on the ground. Standing back to back with Inko, Ino wore a mesh top and shorts under a skirt and a tank top as well as a purple long coat. Eniki glared at all the males and then turned to see Naro looking at Ino. Pick your jaw off the ground for Cam's sake, he muttered as Ino approached her husband and ran a finger along his chest. Like what you see, dear? Ino asked, tracing patterns on her husband's chest. Hell yeah, Naruto said, his mouth feeling dry, and he couldn't take his eyes off his wife. I do damn fine work, Enko said, slinging an arm around Ino's shoulders. Now kick the arrogant bastards and I'll buy the first round. Enko said. The Usuzamakis ignored her. They were used to her trying to get them to go out drinking. Go bother Uruka, Ino said. I think he'll show you something. Enko's head turned to where Uruka was seated with the academy students. Oh yeah, and what could teacher show me? Nar leaned in and whispered, and Enko's grin got more feral and blood dripped from her nose. Really? Nar nodded. Enko patted Ino on the and pinched Naruto's cheek. Don't wait up for me, kids. School's in session. Ino looked at her husband and narrowed her eyes. What did you tell her? That Uruka's hung like a horse. Ino blinked then laughed. So loser, your underscore, is ready to pay. I see. Usually, I'm sure she's used to being on her back and being paid for it. The hated voice of Sasaki interrupted their moment. The civilians around him laughed. Naruto and Ino noted that the ninja present didn't laugh. Many of them looked at the Uchiha with a hardened gaze. Ino turned and looked at Sasaki. I see you're ready to get the beating that your mother should have given you when you were born. You arrogant. Ibiki stepped forward. I am the referee for this fight. When I give you an order, you will obey it. He looked at Ino, who nodded, and then to Sasuke, who gave him a bored look, but nothing else. Am I clear to you, boy? Yeah, fine. Whatever. Sasuke said with a bored tone and took up the Uchiha interceptor style and sneered at Ino. I am so going to enjoy this, he said. Not as much as I am, Ino said, and took up the Uzumaki whirlwind stance that Naruto had taught her in their last life. The Hokage winced at what was about to happen. He knew the style Ino was using. I still remember the day Kusha put me on my back with it. The Uchiha brought this on himself. He thought and watched as Ibiki lay the rules down. His gaze went to Naruto, who was between Inoichi and Yumi. Behind him was Haku, Sakura, and Shikamaru, along with Sakura's mother, Shikaku, and Chosa and Choji. Naruto's made some solid friends, and his wife is a force unto herself. The Hoge's thoughts were interrupted. This challenge between Sasaki Uchiha and Ino Uzumaki begins. Fight. The match began and Sasuke's smirk was wiped from his face as Ino moved faster than he thought possible, and the knee strike to his chest sent him rolling and finding it hard to breath. He managed to get to his knees when Ino blurred and spun. The spinning back kick connected with his face and he was sent flying again. Everyone who had been cheering for the Uchiha were shocked. Those that were cheering for Ino got louder. Naruto remained quiet as he watched his wife. He knew right now she was still holding back, only using a quarter of what she really knew. Sasaki was on his knees while his left arm held him upright, and it was shaking fiercely. His eyes were wide at the difference in his opponent's speed and his own. How is this possible? How can she be so fast? He thought. Ino was bouncing on her toes. You ready, bitch? Ino asked, and she moved again. Left, no from the right. No, where is she? Sasaki thought, and the kick to his spine sent him flying again. This time he hit the stadium wall and it cracked under the velocity. Sasake's supporters were totally silent. They had no idea the girl was this good. Many of them heard the name Uzumaki and automatically gave the win away to the Uchiha. This wasn't a fight. Many of them were realizing this was a slaughter and the Uchiha was the sacrificial lamb. Ino was preparing a move Naruto taught her in their past life. The flash step. It was the base for his father's Hiroshin. She saw the Uchiha pushing to his feet, weaving like a drunken boxer. Don't tell me this is all you have, the great and powerful Uchiha taken out in 3 hits. Your brother didn't leave you alive for anything else because he knew you weren't a threat. You're just useless and pathetic, Ino said, and she saw Sasake's rage in his eyes and she smirked before vanishing. The rain of blows she landed using the flash step was something. The first one sent Sasaki flying across the arena where Ino was already waiting and hit a flip kick that sent him into the air. She appeared above him, and since she didn't have Naruto's upper body strength, she went for a heel drop. The blow caught Sasaki in his gut, bending him around Ino's foot in the shape of U, and he was frozen there for an instant before rocketing to the ground. Ino reappeared on the ground. Looking up, she prepared as Sasaki approached and spinning Shay hit a spinning palm strike that sent him rocketing to the stadium wall where he embedded like a dart, his head buried into the wall, his body hanging lax several feet off the ground. Ino wasn't done and appeared behind the Uchiha and her hands blurred through seals and she slammed her palm into his spine. There was a flash of chakra. Everyone watched as his body spasmed wondering what she did as she hadn't called out any jutsu since the fight began. Ino pulled the Uchiha from the wall and grabbed a handful of hair. His eyes were barely open as she held him up by his hair. You are trash. You and all those who bear the name of your clan. You are nothing but thieves and liars. I do this today to end the sharing and the Uchiha. Ino said, her voice carrying to all as someone had applied an amplification jutsu to the arena thinking it would be cool to hear the Uzumaki's screams but now it was backfiring. That last hit to you was a medical judo. Right now the chakra I injected into is making it way to your reproductive organs and killing your ability to have children. It's also going to require you to wear a diaper the rest of your life, but I'm sure someone will remember to change you. Now, I'm going to show you that attacking women from behind is different than facing them. Your clan has the Mangekyo sharing, but my family has something far worse. She let his hair go, but before he could fall to the ground, Ino's hands sped through another jutsu. And in the stands, Eninoy blinked as he recognized some of the seals, and before he could say or do anything, he watched as Ino continued her spin, her right hand engulfed in a chakra-like blade. What is that? Izumi asked. One of our clan's close-range jutsus. It's called the Sai Dagger. Ino's fist connected with Sasake's forehead, and everyone watched as his eyes rolled up into his head, and for several minutes, nothing. Then he let a scream of pure terror and pain. It digs up the worst memories and pain and amplifies them 1,000-fold. Eniki finished. He didn't know Ino was poring over the old scrolls, but it looked like she had surpassed him. On his wife's other side, he saw Naruto wasn't surprised and shook his head. Izumi is right. Those two together are a force to reckon with, and they're still genin. Eniki thought, and now realized that the term prodigy and gifted doesn't even scratch the surface of what his daughter and his son-in-law were capable of. Below, Ino stepped back from the mentally destroyed Uchiha, who sank to the ground, his eyes widened, a burn mark on his forehead, and looked at Ibiki. Not enough? She asked. She formed a ball of chakra in her hand, and many recognized it as the Rasengan. She rammed it into the Uchiha's crotch, and he howled in pain before passing out. Ibiki shook himself and realized he best call it, or she would continue. Not that he cared. The Uchiha deserved it. Winner. Inuaki. Those supporting Ino cheered loudly. Nara appeared at her side the moment Ibiki announced her the winner and picked her up and spun her around in a hug. Their kiss had some of the crowd blushing at the display. Ibiki motioned for the Ambu to collect the Uchiha and take him to his cell to have the seals reapplied as well as a medic to repair some of the damage. He stepped up. Girl, if you ever want a job in interrogation, I'll think about it, Ino said before being pulled back into a kiss by her husband. She had left the Uchiha alive, trapped in his own mind, in pain and his bloodline dead as any hopes of milking him for keeping the Sharingan. In the council box, many of the civilian members were screaming about her cheating. The shinobi members looked at the as if they were lower life forms. Enough, the Hokage said, silencing them all. Sasaki Uchi wanted trial by combat and lost. His sentence will be carried out immediately. Lord Hokage. One member wed, it's obvious the demon helped his underscore, she couldn't possibly move that fast on her own. He the blade buried into the man's neck and all turned to see Inoichi standing there, a dark look on his face. The next one of you who insults my daughter and son-in-law will think his death was far too slow compared to what I'll do. And as troublesome as that is, that goes for us as well. Shikaku Nara said in. Chosa Akamaiki stood behind their longtime friend and teammate, and you should know that Ino did nothing outside of clan-related jutsus, but her speed. Another council member spoke up. She can't be that fast. The move she performed is called the flash step. All eyes turned to see Kakashi Hatake leaning against the rail. Nar taught it to her. One councilman leapt at the chance. See the demon. The Hogue's killing intent flattened the man. The flash step is the basic start to the Hiroshin. Nar can share his clan secrets with her. Excuse me, Lord Hokage, Danzo said. But did you say hi? The move the Yandai Hokage invented. I did. It is Naruto's by birthright as was the Rasengan. I am proud of both of them learning those moves, he said. And if that leaves this box in any shape or form, I will kill you and your immediate family. He said looking at the civilian members. It is a triple S ranked secret to prevent Iwa from coming after Naruto until he's fully trained. The son of the fourth Danzo muttered and his eyes went to the pair of blondes surrounded by friends. Yamanaka residents Nar held her as they watched the stars from the roof. Ino was tracing patterns over her husband's chest. Sasaki has been neutralized as well as neutered. I think things are going to be very different from here on out. Naruto nodded with him locked up in you, ending his ability to reproduce in the fact hell. Never activate the sharing guarantees. Orochimaru can't use him. That's if he ever climbs out of the world of Tormento. Put him in rolled over so she was atop of him. So far we saved Haku. Sasake's neutralized. What next? She asked as her fingers began to pull his shirt up out of his pants. The Tunin exams in a month, Nar said as his own hands slowly massaged Ino's thighs and up her skirt and back down. Ino smiled and leaned down and kissed him. Slowly, their tongues battled, neither dominant, but content to take the pleasure in the other's touch. Slowly, Ino pulled back and looked at him with hooded eyes. The Akatsuki is still a threat. Worry about them later. Love, we have months before Itachi and Kami show up. His words were lost as his wife reclaimed his lips, her hands working on his pants and buckle. Ino leaned into his hands, which were now under her shirt and working on her bra. Well, they were supposed to be, but they seemed to enjoy teasing her trapped. The mattress they had bought for up here was perfect, as it was soft and comfortable, and soon Ino's hands succeeded in their task as she kept getting lost in his kisses and caresses. Clothes off, she ordered as they parted from kissing. Naruto's shirt joined Ino's next to the mattress, and they fought with his pants and boxers and her skirt and panties before they joined the growing pile. Nar chuckled. What? Ino asked as she finally got his pants off. Just glad we're not armed right now, he said, and Ino actually got the mental image of a small mountain of weapons and scrolls that both had hidden on them. She leaned in and kissed him. I didn't know you were into that kind of kink, she teased as she bit his lip and pulled back. Nar grinned as he pursued. Blame Anko. She keeps trying to talk me into a threesome. Ino shook her head. Your friend. She was quieted as he kissed her. His hands were driving her wild as he massaged her side ant. Ino was sitting on his thighs. Naruto flipped her over with a practiced ease and kissed his way down her body, worshipping her as his living goddess. Ino felt heat wash over her as her husband kissed her body. Starting with her lips, her jaw, her neck, her shoulder, he teased with kisses, licks, and bites that had her harder than diamonds. He kissed her sternum, her stomach. He kissed her hip and her thigh. Then the inner thigh he kissed and nipped. Ino felt him slip a finger into her and her fingers dug into the mattress as he slowly worked the finger. Then a second finger was added and was joined by her husband's very talented tongue. As he drove her wild, Ino knew that tonight would be something special, and her low moan told Naruto that his task was just starting downstairs. Eniki looked up inside. Did they have to do it on the roof? Izumi smiled as she looked at her husband. We were that young once. What do you mean once? Eniki said in Izumi's shriek as he picked her up and carried her into their bedroom, stopping to kick the door shut. And soon a second pair of moans and groans joined the pair on the roof. Hogue's office. Enko sat looking into the orb. The Hokage was bound and gagged on the couch, shooting her a look. She leaned back inside. Don't you know blondes have more fun? She said as she watched her friend's students doing somethings, and the Hokage from his spot tried to crane his head to catch a look. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto What If stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.